There we go. All right, we are back, and this week we are.
This week we are TNJR.
TNJR.
It's not as catchy.
Who shot TNJR? That's who we are this week. All right.
That's timely for the bullshit we're about to talk about.
Yeah.
I guess reference to a 1970s TV show. I finally, I don't know. I'm saying finally, but like I looked at the titles for the Birchum episodes.
Oh,
the first one is "Welcome Back, Birchum," and I was
hell
like,
yeah.
This is so emblematic of the whole show, like a fucking Welcome Back Cotter reference. Jesus Christ!
Yeah.
This
show is amazing.
It's such a time travel mindfuck thing. It's just like, it's almost like, does Adam Carolla not know what, is he fucking full on Twin Peaks and like what year is it? He doesn't know. Nobody's let him know that it's 2024.
Yeah. Or that like he doesn't care. Like, I don't know.
It's probably more that he doesn't care, of course. But yeah. Man, I posted in the document at the top. I mean, you don't really have time to read it now, I guess, but I mean, it's not very long either, but It's just so funny. It's like the one positive review of the show I could find, basically. I mean, at least like a published one, like, not just like a user review. It's in like the Washington Examiner, which I'm assuming
the
is
logo though. The Washington Examiner logo makes sense.
Very Bavarian painter, disgruntled Bavarian painter-esque.
It has the Reich stuff. It's definitely giving that vibe.
But some parts of it are so funny. I
think I actually did look at this.
Maybe you did. They compare that Tyler Fisher guy. They say not necessarily a discount Galifianakis. But certainly a comedian. But we're trying to implant the idea that he is a basically as cool as Zach Galifianakis. But certainly a comedian who carries his torch of flippant absurdity with a totally straight face. I watched like some of that guy's stand up. No, he's grinning at his own jokes the whole time.
I feel like that misses what Zach Galifianakis' thing is. Or, you know what I mean? Like what made him good. I don't think that's what made him good.
I mean, that's an element of his comedy.
Yeah.
Like, sure.
Yeah.
It's pretty one-dimensional of a description, yeah.
Yeah.
I actually was like trying to, I got like nostalgic for for his stand-up special, the Purple Onion one.
Oh, yeah.
The other day. Damn, that shit was funny. I didn't rewatch it yet, but I started downloading it, and for some reason it stalled out. But anyway, it's because I was watching that TV show. That's what reminded me of it.
Right. It's like
bored to death.
That the kind of the description that they use, and I guess I can understand where they're coming from. Sounds more like Stephen Wright. You know what I mean? Like doing dry, deadpan delivery of absurd material. And like, Zach Galifianakis was like, the idea, he would not buy into the jokes into the absurdity of things in like a way that's like, isn't this stuff wacky? But he would do like indignant. His response would be like that he was like indignant and confused about how insane stuff was, but treating it as if it was normal, but just that he was very upset by it. You know what I mean? Like that was a lot more of the crux of his humor. And they're implying, like, he delivers zany stuff with a straight face. It's like, again, that's not really what he did. Because, anyway.
Not primarily. Like, you could find, like, jokes here and there where that's what he would do. But, like, yeah, I'm thinking now of just the Purple Onion thing. And, like, I just remembered one of the funnier jokes. Like, because he did do sort of, like, one-liner type things, like Stephen Wright sometimes. But that was just one part, right? But at another point in that, he's like laying on the floor, just going, "God, I'm fat," like shit.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
That.
Yeah,
but
it's not like a deadpan delivery.
I remember he was like his impressions were so funny. Where he was like, "This is my impression of a 3-year-old with a beard. I don't want a beard." It's just like freaking out about having a beard.
Yeah. Gay Snake, obviously, all-timer.
Gay Snake, yeah.
Really good
I haven't seen that forever, but I watched it like a bunch of times, like back when it first came out.
Yeah. I always think about Who Ate All the Pussy.
Oh God, that's a good one.
So good. Yeah.
Did you? I mean, speaking of absurdity.
Yeah.
The first thing I saw when I woke up today in the news, and I guess this maybe happened a couple days ago, but anyway, just sticking with the theme of like time travel, fucking weird feelings. Like what year is it? Like why is Tucker Carlson like talking about how evolution is fake still? And like, so Louisiana just the governor just passed the statewide law that the 10 Commandments must be posted in every public school.
I was hearing like, someone who wrote the bill or was involved in putting the bill together being interviewed. It was very,
was it
very
the
funny.
CNN one?
Probably.
Was it the woman who kept trying to like flip her hair out of her face and was
I wasn't
psychotic?
I wasn't watching it, so I only heard it, but I'm sure that's who it was. Yeah.
Yeah, because the CNN like the anchor who I
pushing
don't
back.
recognize was pushing back hard. Yeah. And she just had nothing. Like, she's like, take out a dollar bill from your wallet. What does it say on it? In God we trust. Yeah. QED mic drop. Like,
I did.
Jesus, what year am I in?
It was good stuff because the guy was like, well, what about like, just saying that you have to have the Quran posted inside of the school. And she's like, well, we're not talking about that.
Right.
Like that's all she says.
She said something like that's too like broad or generalized or something. It's like unlike Christianity and the Bible. Like what's the fucking difference?
She eventually got there, but like her knee jerk reaction to like what would you say to like the Quran or something like that, it was just like that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about something specific,
right.
which is this bill that has to do with the 10 Commandments. And it's just like, yes, but you understand that like. My point is that what if it was being posted something that was similar, but you don't believe in, that's not a Christian thing that you believe in. And that's when she's like, well, that's just too broad. And this is a specific thing.
Right. Yeah. We're definitely talking about the same interview. Cause
it was very good.
Cause he basically was just like, okay, moron, like okay, forget about specifics. Like
what if you didn't have breakfast? If that's what he's about to ask.
She forced him to generalize because she's like, well, we're not talking about the Quran. So he's like, all right, anything that you wouldn't like that's religious.
Yeah.
Like, how would you feel? Yeah, it's just like this mind-numbing fucking discourse. Like, and it's just hilarious. Like, I'm also not like, like screaming the sky is falling about this shit. It makes them look like fools. Like,
sure.
All that you can possibly accomplish from this, like in terms of like impacting the youth, is just creating more like Reddit atheists than there would be otherwise.
Did you want Bill Maher's? Because this is how we get Bill Maher's.
Yeah, nobody is going to be like, oh man, do you see this fucking increase in Christianity down in Louisiana? Holy shit.
It must be on account of the 10 Commandments being in the school.
The other part I found funny too is how specific it is about like the font size and like the size, like the minimum size of the paper. It's like good. Must be 11 by 14 inches. And it's not even just elementary school. It's like all state colleges as well, which will be like even fun. Like, I don't know. I'm pretty sure like the ACLU is already suing them. It's just one of those things that's just like, isn't this settled? Aren't we fucking done with this? Nope. Like, it's so fucking over. Like, it's over before it started, but it should be fucking really over by now. It's just so funny what people end up like putting their fucking energy into. But they like the other thing that I realized, because I ended up like pulling up the actual bill for some reason. I don't know why. I just wanted to see it, I guess, to see if there was anything funny about how it's worded, Like,
yeah.
When like dumb shit is like written in like legalese, it can be funny sometimes. But anyway, like they what they did kind of like as a way to like sneak it in sort of is it says here, relative to the public elementary, secondary, post-secondary schools, to provide for the display of certain historical documents, to provide for the display of the Mayflower Compact, Declaration of Independence, and Northwest Ordinance, and the Ten Commandments. They like throw it in there at the end.
Yeah, of course.
But it's just like, okay, you're gonna put the Declaration of Independence in, like one of the most like sort of cornerstone like secular documents ever, and then it's they're just inviting people to say, well, why not the First Amendment of the Constitution? Why not specifically the Establishment Clause? Why don't we have that up there? That's a historic document,
right?
It's the first one. It's got to be important, right? It's the number one amendment. It's like, oh well, we don't talk about that. We don't talk about that one.
Right.
Not in school. Not next to the Ten Commandments. Come on, have some fucking decorum. That one tells us to do the exact opposite of what we're doing.
Right.
Yeah, the main thing is just like it piled onto that feeling I had like with the Tucker Carlson evolution shit. And like the other day, I don't know how I just the whims of like clicking on YouTube videos. I ended up watching like a full on flat Earth debate.
Good stuff.
Yeah, that stuff just is so mind blowing to me. It's just it's like I feel like an alien from another planet when I like listen to those people talk. It's just kind of, I don't know, impressive is the wrong word, but it's just, yeah.
Maybe impressive is the right word, you know?
It makes me search for explanations. Like, what made you this way? How did you get to this? Because like, if it were just like a straight up grift, like, but it doesn't. It seems like some of these people, at least some of them, are dead fucking serious about, the Earth is flat. Prove me wrong. I've got all the science words on my side. Because it's like, yeah, it's not even like the tired debates between like atheists and religious people, because the flat earthers claim to have like all the science on their side, but it's not.
Right.
And they cling to this thing. And I guess there's some like rich guy who's like going around and offering to take flat earthers to the South Pole because that would like definitively prove them wrong. Yeah. Like to see the 24-hour sun. That's
what the flat earthers need. They need evidence. That's the one thing keeping them from being logical and believing the truth. Yeah.
And the one guy, I guess, sort of to his credit, like said he would do it, but he was like, but I want to like, make sure that I'm not being like exploited or whatever. Like, so he's like also already starting to make excuses for not going, I guess, in a way. But he's like, well, if I saw that and I would like, did like a full 360, whatever, he's like getting like really specific, like, then I would go back and I would have to start rethinking things instead of like, then I would admit I'm completely wrong. My entire worldview is insane and bullshit. Because, I mean, nobody is, I don't know. It's hard for anyone to admit that they're that wrong about something they've been super invested in, I guess. But it would be funny to see the excuses they would make. Because that's already one of their excuses is like, well, actually, regular civilians are restricted from going past a certain, latitude or whatever in Antarctica, which is like not true. Like you can just take like a fucking tour to the South Pole, apparently. But anyway, I found myself watching flat Earth videos, and it was kind of amusing.
Yeah, I
really watched one long debate. And it's with this guy who is apparently kind of a big YouTube personality named like, I don't know, Professor Phil or some shit. I forget his name.
Okay.
But he's just one of those like debunker guys. He actually did a really, the reason this is how I landed in the flat earth thing. I was reading about the Terrence Howard on Rogan stuff, and he did like an extremely thorough, like step-by-step debunking of every single thing Terrence Howard said. And yeah, I guess that's his thing. And then he will actually go on to these like stupid debate YouTube channels and debate flat Earth lunatics, and but he gets like really like aggro with them, which is kind of funny in a way. Yeah, what was he was doing something that was like, it was obviously very planned ahead. Like he had a bottle of like ranch salad dressing, and every time the guy would start like going off in like flights of fancy about science, and it was just, you know, his idea was, this is word salad, and he would just like shake this bottle of salad dressing into the camera, which is quite lame in its own regard, but like lame in a way that I found funny.
Yeah. Oh, man, I still want to check out the was it Joe Rogan? Not Joe Rogan. What was it? It was Alex Jones versus the little jack-off kid. The little not jack-off kid. The pro or anti-Hitler debate.
The Fuentes and Jones debate. Yeah, me too. Gotta check that out. I have a feeling like it will be like kind of like a drawn out version of that moment when he interviewed Kanye and it was like trying to give him an out. He's come on, brother. You cannot endorse Nazism. I'm giving you here's the off ramp, brother. And he's just like, no, man, Hitler was misunderstood.
My favorite line, the one that sticks with me, you know, like a divining rod, it just pings in my brain. We just can't be dissing the Nazis all the time.
Right.
That's the one. That's the one.
That's good shit.
Yeah.
I'd say up top 10 Kanye lyrics right there.
That's a bar. That is a bar. For sure. Want to get this fucking show on the road?
Yeah, let's get started.
Let's hear it through this one. We're gonna fucking destroy this stuff. That's really bad. It's really fucking bad.
He walked out in the gray light and stood, and he saw for a brief moment the absolute truth of the world. The cold, relentless circling of the intestate earth. Darkness implacable. The blind dogs of the sun in their running. The crushing black vacuum of the universe. And somewhere 200 animals trembling like ground foxes in their cover. Borrowed time and borrowed world and borrowed eyes with which to sorrow it.
And lo, for the earth was empty of form, and void, and darkness was all over the face of the deep, and we said, look at that fucker dance.
Welcome to Heat Death of the Universe, a podcast that'll sooner wear bracelets than ever eat even a single bite of stew. It is 11:16 Saturday morning, June 22nd, Korea Standard Time, year of our Lord 2024. This is Josh speaking, and to my southwest, approximately 5,956.34 miles away, is Timothy Spunkle Howdy Buckner.
Thank you.
I think I'm going to start just announcing your Twitter handles of the day,
of the moment
when we do this.
That's a good one.
I don't actually understand Spunkle
not.
Howdy. I don't know if it's worth explaining it or not.
No. I'll explain it to the fine listeners of the only podcast that's going to say R.I.P. to Donald Sutherland, a man who's famous for many things, but to me will always be remembered as the man who was cloud busting in Kate's bush. How are you doing tonight, Josh?
Is that a wait, what is I think I know which movie you're referencing, but
it's not a movie, a music video.
It's not.
He was in Kate Bush's music video for Cloud Busting. and he was playing like the main character, who was the guy who created the cloud machine.
That's going deep. I know there's some movie that has like some like explicit sort of sex scene with him. I'm pretty sure, but I can't remember what it's called.
I'm sure there is. There's probably very many of them.
I always.
Oh, go ahead.
I think it's funny what my immediate go-to thought of when I think of Donald Sutherland is. It's probably not what anyone else first thinks of when they think of him. I think it's just the way, just happened to be introduced, remember him most from an early age as being the crazy pyromaniac in the Ron Howard early 90s classic fireman action film Backdraft.
Oh, yes.
A movie that I really liked as a child for some reason. I don't know. I think I went back to it as an adult and like it was still kind of fun in a nostalgic way, even though, obviously it's like, it's not perfect cinema, we'll say. But, Kurt Russell fighting fires, that's good enough for 90 minutes or 2 hours.
Yeah. I, as you know, I'm not a big film fan, film aficionado. I don't consider myself a cinephile or a Cenobite or any of the, whatever you want to say.
Cenobite.
Yeah, but there is a movie that I believe stars like Dennis Quaid, or Dennis Quaid is in it. That's about like people, or at least like him and another person who have like the ability to conjure fire. They have like fire powers. And I get that one confused with like a lot of any of the like firefighter movies, Backdraft, any of that stuff. And I just think of them all as like the same thing.
I found it. 2000s sci-fi thriller Frequency.
Is that it?
You're thinking of.
Is that
I typed Dennis Quaid firefighter and it filled in as firefighter movie, and that's what came up.
That
Jesus Christ himself, Jim Caviezel, was in this.
I don't think that's it because it's too late. I would have watched this when I was young. It's got Michael Cera in it, and this is it's his feature film debut. Maybe.
It's hard to imagine he's in more than one firefighter movie, but
this is the thing. I don't think it's necessarily a firefighter movie. It's a movie where he has the ability to start fires, like spontaneously with his mind.
It says sci-fi thriller here, so maybe that's. I could just look at the. It's got a high rating, and it does have Michael Cera.
I found it.
Feature film debut.
It's Wilder Napalm. And I'm probably the only person in the world who fucking even remembers this movie. I found it because it says Wallace and Wilder. Oh, Jesus, their last name is really bad, but it's like from Drye. I think it's meant to be like a play on like starting fires, but they are brothers who have pyrokinetics. Ever since they were children, a tragedy accidentally killed a homeless person sleeping in a friend's secret clubhouse because they've kept their fire-starting abilities a secret. This is absolutely the movie I'm talking about. It is not...
I'm looking at it right now. It looks...
We should watch this with Adrian, honestly. We should do this as an episode.
I think that could be good. Vince Gilligan was the screenwriter.
Hell yes.
And it was like his first screenplay. It says he won a screenwriting competition shortly after graduating college, and it was for this script, I guess.
I don't think it's good. I think it's a bad movie. But
I always looks like a movie that time definitely forgot.
Yeah.
Holy shit. It's got Ernest P. Worrell himself, Jim Varney,
yes.
James Albert Varney Jr. in it. Yeah, this is looking more and more like something we're going to have to watch.
Jim Varney in a serious role, possibly? Although his character just has one name.
He's like, I think he like comes from like a serious like theater background. Actually,
probably,
that's what's kind of funny about him is like he was like doing like Shakespearean shit, and then he like parlayed that into Ernest P. Worrell.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway,
what are we talking about today? Oh well,
something even better.
Speaking of great media, yeah, returning to this rich vein, this deep well, the fertile soil of comedy and socio-political satire that is Mr. Birchum. We're going to do episodes 4 through 6, the final 3, hopefully final forever.
It seemed like it, right?
I'd say it's going to be, I think it's definitely like, that's all that they ordered is 6 episodes, but like I feel like it's like a 50-50 coin flip chance that it could actually get renewed or whatever, get a second season. But will be funny about that is I'm like almost positive, just based on vibes, that probably 85% of the people watching this shit are people like us, just panning it, like going into it knowing they're gonna hate it, and then maybe like the other 10% left there are people who went into it thinking it would be cool, and then I have to begrudgingly admit that it sucks, even though that it espouses their politics. And then maybe 5% left that like are like, hell yeah, brother, like the people that wrote the that Washington Examiner article, Mr. Birchum delivers anti-woke comedy.
Yeah,
is the title.
It's pretty good.
Oh, in that article though, by the way, they bring up the Jedi thing and say that it's real, and then they link to another article by themselves. California school district uses Jedi techniques to confuse 3-year-olds about their gender. I didn't read the whole thing, but apparently, I don't know, they keep referring to capital JEDI training and something, and like, it's in like one school somewhere in California.
It's not a real thing.
Poway Unified School District.
Poway.
Sounds fake.
Poway. I actually know where that is. Because that's San Diego, right?
I have no idea.
Yeah. I actually was just nearby there the other day. Anyway,
but I guess what it says to me is that, okay, so this is apparently a fringe but real thing. So even that is something that Mr. Birchum didn't come up with on their own.
Well, to be fair, they did not know about that. They didn't copy it from that. They just, that's one of those, like, what do they call it? Sharpshooter fallacy? Someone else searched it out and found it, and they had no fucking clue.
Okay. Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see some weirdo who writes for Mr. Birchum, like, living in California and having, like, seen this in, like, the local paper or some shit. But anyway.
I guess that's possible, but I don't think so. Because I think a lot of the jokes on this show were just written by Adam Carolla himself. It feels like that. I mean, Jesus Christ. Yeah. Yeah,
it does definitely feel like that. So yeah, Mr. Birchum, we talked about this a few episodes ago. We covered the first 3 episodes. Just to quickly sort of rehash, this is Adam Carolla's so fucking bad that it becomes kind of entertaining / good, but then full circle fucking horribly shitty once again. Capital E, edgy and epic. Capital R, random and really regarded.
Yes.
This is an animated series.
There is some fucking brutal stuff, man. That's just like really just people don't talk like that. You know what I mean? Like, god damn. Anyways, sorry.
Yeah, we'll get there. And yeah, hosted by the Daily Wire. When I found out since our last episode that the Daily Wire Plus streaming service fee is $15 a month, which seems a bit much for what they have to offer on there. Like we have like their top tier shit is got to be like what is a woman and Lady Ballers, just like films like more fixated on the genitalia of trans people than any trans person has ever been, like that kind of shit. Anyway, it's bad. The Daily Wire is bad, guys.
Folks, it's no good. It's no good.
But yeah, let's just get into it. So, episode 4, entitled. I was telling you right before we got going that I was looking at the names of these episodes, which are also, as you might guess, terrible.
Yeah.
This one, just so we don't, just in case we don't understand the reference that it's making here, it's entitled 127 Hours or So. So it begins with a dream sequence with
I was having a hard time, like, in this episode specifically, because we had watched this before we recorded the first episode.
Yeah.
And, like, I felt like we talked about stuff about this, but I was, like, so mixed up on, like, did we talk about this on the podcast? Did we
didn't.
not? We didn't, right? But maybe we referenced some stuff from this episode, not realizing we weren't going to get to it or something, or we just, like, talked to each other about it. And then it's also, like, I talked to my wife about stuff. So I was just, as I was rewatching this multiple times in the past couple of days, I just kept talking myself into being like, I'm pretty sure we talked about this episode. But anyways.
No, we didn't, because I remember we were like really pushing the time too far with the first three, and like all of the sort of setup about Adam Carolla and who he is and everything. But
I even checked the podcast. I actually did listen to it to see where we cut off. Like,
okay.
So I was like, no, we definitely didn't. But yeah.
I remember referencing one element of this episode, which is the terrible reference to Pulp Fiction, because I said, like, I really want to I think I said that. Anyway.
Yes, no, that was one of the things that really stuck with me, because I was like, I don't know anybody else who would have, like, been talking about the Pulp Fiction thing. Like,
yeah,
the Mr.
I mean,
Wolf
I just,
thing,
like,
you know?
I just referenced it, like, that's like I think all I said about it. But we'll get into it here, because boy, do I have some shit to say about the Pulp Fiction stuff and more. But so we're like very clearly in a dream sequence, like pretty quickly. There's no real psych out with it. I don't know. I mean, I don't even know if that's what they're going for. Who cares? But it's like Mr. Birchum's being really nice to his students, and he's like speaking Spanish, one of the 7 deadly sins, bilingualism. And then he starts gaily dancing with Carpanzi, our school Jedi gender man, whatever. Wokest.
I like Gender Man and thinking of it as like a play on Slender Man, but you can't really. It's really hard to read, you know, when you hear it.
There's something there.
Yeah, but when you hear Gender Man, you don't think of Slender Man, you know. But you know, you can do something with it.
Only to reveal that his arm, he wakes up and his arm is stuck in the wood shop lathe. Not his arm, though, just like the corner of his sleeve of his jacket. Some denatured alcohol had been spilled everywhere, and then the chemicals are causing him to have what I wrote down here as vaggy, woke-ass dreams. And I think that's the cold open. We go into the cool rock and roll music of the opening credits or whatever. And but this is like they're like, this is where we end up, and it's like, okay, and then they go back in time after the cold open. He's teaching the kids are making stupid bullshit in wood shop. The little woke girl Bentley is like, I made a selfie stick.
Yeah.
And we're all splitting our sides, rolling around on the floor.
That's another one that I swear we mentioned, because I was like, we both kind of talked about the idea that like selfie sticks have not been a thing for like a decade at this point.
It's because this show is fucking awful, and they do multiple selfie stick jokes. They
yes.
They make one within the first like minute of the first episode with the same girl.
And it's not meant to be a callback, you know? Like, that would at least, like, show that you fucking put any effort
Even if
into
it was, it's a callback to a dumb joke that's not even a joke. It's just like, it's like, man, remember when, like, old people grumbled about selfie sticks 20 years ago? Remember how it wasn't funny then? It's still not funny now. Thanks for the reminder, Carolla. And this character who's supposed to be so hilarious because he only says the word beef, which is apparently his God-given name as well. He's just like the dumb kid. He like makes some shitty baseball bat. Birchum likes it. He says, I didn't know you played baseball. And then we get our first Family Guy cutaway, which is of Beef sticking his body out of the back of a passenger side of a car smashing a mailbox with a baseball bat.
Yeah.
And the joke is that it's Mr. Carponzi's mailbox, which we see his name written on, and beneath his name it says he/him.
Right, because you have to do your pronouns on your mailbox now.
As Jordan Bertrand Peterson, or whatever his name, maybe his middle name is Birchum, let's just say. Jordan Birchum Peterson once said, "You have to use pronouns. Fuck you, buddy."
Yeah, exactly.
So take that, pronouns.
They have shown that beef can talk. They have shown, at least here and there. It was like a bit on the play episode, right? That he like delivered his lines really well or whatever. But yeah, it is funny that primarily all he does is just shout beef.
Well, then that's so. Oh man, they're going for like a sort of like almost like a Maggie Simpson effect is what I'll call it.
Sure,
like,
sure.
She never speaks, right? You know, and then when she does, like 7, 8 fucking seasons into a legendary, awesome show, okay, it's like earned. Like she says something and it's funny because she says something fucking weird, or it's in one of the like the Treehouse of Horror episodes or something. But like this is like the episode you're referring to is probably like what, episode 3 or 2 even.
Yeah.
Where they're doing the Romeo and Romeo play,
right.
Rim shot sound there. And yeah, and it's so funny that I don't even remember that, and I probably watched it twice.
Right.
But anyway.
The you know what's the iconic Maggie Simpson talking thing that I remember is the episode of The Simpsons where like it's like meant to be playing off of yo-yos being like the fad of the moment.
Yeah.
And everyone's talking about yo-yos, and then Maggie pulls her pacifier out and just goes, "Yo." And that's it. She just says yo. Yeah.
I'm thinking of, now that we're reminiscing about The Simpsons, the first thing that came to mind was, it must have been one of the Treehouse of Horror episodes where she pulls out the pacifier and like this like deep male voice goes, "This is a much disturbing universe," or some shit like that. I don't know. I can't remember what
that.
the context is outside of it, but
yeah.
Oh man, talking about The Simpsons when in the middle of talking about Mr. Birchum is like painful.
Yeah.
But there's a couple other things that come up in these episodes, maybe just one more actually, that made me this like, God damn it, why are you making me think of The Simpsons, you fucking shit ass show? But I don't know, just going by my notes here, it looks like then basically Birchum is having a conversation with Carponzi. He says, "Did you invent another new gender?" Genders aren't invented, they're discovered. At last count, there are 111, but we'll easily crack 120 by year's end. Well, it was a nice civilization while it lasted. So there's that.
Yeah.
And there's, I don't know, they're talking about like the kids' grades, and basically Carponzi is saying like all the kids need to have exactly the same grades. Yeah, he says all grades should be the same to reflect individuality. Do you guys see the conundrum, the logical conundrum he's trapped in here, the woke conundrum of trying to make everybody the same, because that's what liberalism is, I guess.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, he's pointing out the wording is like clearly meant to be pointing out like, look at, I got by your logic, I caught you in your hypocrisy thing. But it's like, I mean, it takes like 2 seconds to scratch an inch deep to understand like what it really means. It's this fucking show loves to do this thing where it's like, again, it's somehow using like pun-based like logic to be the ultimate like answer. It's it's Rastafari language. It's like you understand what a word means and then like what it can mean in a different concept, and then now somehow that makes it true. It's what we call the if it rhymes, it must be true thing. If it's whoever smelt it dealt it, right? Whoever denied it supplied it. Like it's that logic level of it, where it is like
totally.
Oh, to make everybody equal, we have to give them all the same grade. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And it's like, yeah, it's like the difference between, anyways, continue.
Well, no, I mean, it's a good point because it also it carries over completely into like the construction of these quote unquote jokes. I know that last time we talked about this, you were reluctant, I think pretty like actually 100% adamant in not even using the word joke when talking about this shit. It was like the J word or whatever. But
yeah, the J
the construction
question. When watching Birchum, it is important to ask
J
yourself
question.
if you can answer the J question. Yeah.
Yeah, the answer is the F solution.
Exactly.
But no, like in their humor jokes, that's like the basis of so many of them is like they just latch onto a single word and then like reflect that word back at you, and that's the joke. Is like, hey, did you know a word can have more than one meaning? Well, we're going to show you both meanings in a single sentence. Funny, right? Anyway, we'll get to some more clear examples of that in a second. But so then, I don't know, plot-wise, like basically, it's another, I mean, like, God, everything about this show is just so poorly constructed. In episode 5, like, is when I really started to notice it. And maybe they're all this bad, but like, the animation just seems to get perpetually like worse as it goes along. And a little sort of like background digging I did on this, like the very little I did, like even like directly from like some of the people that animated the show saying that like just admitting like, yeah, this was really poorly animated because we simply didn't have time to like polish things the way that you normally would in a normal animated show. So like there are times when like the movements are like, it almost looks like how in animation you would like intentionally make some things jerky in slow motion, but it's not supposed to be. Like it's just, there's just really unnerving movements and shit. And like, because the show's so bad, it was kind of easy to like not even notice it most of the time, but a few times it just leapt out to me as like, oh God, they're not doing that on purpose. Like this is just bad. This is just unfinished. And then like some review I was listening to about this dug into it further and said that the show is literally not even animated at like 24 frames per second, which is like the standard for any sort of moving images. It's at something else. I forget what the rate was, but like
nice.
Anyway, it's just very cheap. And also they found out that it was it seems like a cheap shot, but like these people fucking are asking for cheap shots like this. This was not animated in America. This was animated in Valencia, Spain, by a bunch of fucking Spaniards, probably in a labor union, to make things even worse. And I guess there's some proof of that is that there are like weird little like, I don't know, there's just like a poster in the background that's like Valencia, Spain for like no apparent reason. But anyway,
that's pretty good.
So he's supposed to he's basically supposed to go and like level out everybody's grades, and this goes back to shit we talked about before, where you actually like you laid out well like how. So I was saying that like why does like the Carolla character, Mr. Birchum, his whole thing is like he's rebelling against the woke, right? The tyranny of woke, but he like caves into it so much, or just like tries to like outsmart it. So like the example we were talking about last time was like he's not supposed to play this like gory like safety film for his class, the Blood on the Bandsaw.
Yeah.
He's like, haha, I'll trick him with a loophole by playing Blood on the Bandsaw 2. That kind of shit. And it's the same with this grading thing where like he's like, fuck this gender Jedi. Like I just crushed him by his own logic. But then he immediately like capitulates and goes back to the school to go like do what he's been told.
Right. But then he doesn't.
But then he doesn't anyway.
So it's like, why did you even fucking go?
Well, the reason is because the plot needs him to be back in the school so he can get his arm trapped in the fucking lathe.
When it's closed.
And also and it's closed, so there's no one there. But then also we see, I took the stupid time to write down the stupid fucking information that's on his computer screen when he pulls it up.
Yeah.
looking at the individualized grade recalibration, as it was called. Bentley Wilson, narcissistic anxiety disorder, current gender, moon. Davy Green, oppositional defiant disorder, antisocial disorder. What's funny about that? Like, I get that what they're going for with current gender, moon, but like,
sure,
oppositional defiant disorder and antisocial disorder are just real disorders.
The kids that age have, like, a lot of them,
yeah,
have. Okay.
And then here's a killer, Juan Enriquez, IBS/ESL student. Tests must be in Spanish. Haha. Do you get that? Because ESL is a 3-letter acronym. IBS is also a 3-letter acronym, and
right.
IBS refers to shit.
Right,
Doo-doo pants.
He'd been doodling
and then
out of his ass.
Gerald LaBeef, who I assume is beef.
Right.
It says just dumb. And then he's like, fuck this. And he like turns off the computer, gets his arm caught in the lathe.
No, he clicks a button that would never exist, which says...
Okay, what's that?
So it's supposed to be that he had to go in to use their like woke grading calibrating system to give everyone the same grade based on like their issues that are listed here. And he clicks a button in the corner that says submit without calibration.
God damn.
So, like,
oh boy.
Not only does it not make sense that he went back to do the thing after he told fucking Carponzi to eat a dick, and then, like, now he has to go back and do it anyways because he's a fucking cuck, which is also part of the show. Honestly, the overall show canon in a weird way that it makes sense. And it does play into, as you were saying, the stuff that I talked about in the last episode. But, like, he goes, and it's like, you have to go and check off, but... For some reason, even the fucking app that's, like, supposed to fix the grades gives you, like, an option to not do it. Why would it have that? Why would the calibration that you're required to do, why would it have a button that says submit without doing the calibration? Like, Jesus Christ. But
yeah, it really... Like, this show, this show, like, almost forces you to be a nitpicking scold if you're, like, actually gonna, like, talk about it in a, I don't know, any sort of way. Like,
right,
which has like just makes me resent it even more because it's like, God, I don't even want to be like noticing shit like this or like pointing out.
I'm not trying to be a noticer. I don't want to be a noticer over here.
I don't want to be a fucking Steve Sailing noticer. I hate to say we have to sort of go back in the chronology because I can't miss a line like so basically also we have to mention that like I guess it's spring break is coming up, which I also don't, whatever, who cares? Let's just say spring break applies to junior high. I don't remember it being that way. I always thought spring break was like specifically a college break time, but I could be wrong. I could be misremembering my elementary school days, my middle school days. But anyway, spring break's coming up and he's like going to go on like a camping trip with his bilingual non-binary black male friend Gage. So he's like back at home and he's like, I've got my bear proof, whatever. And like this is all like just laying the groundwork for like, I guess it's trying to say that like I didn't think about this until later, until like maybe I guess the second time I watched it, but they're actually trying to cover their bases like on like the believability of his arm getting caught in this thing is what I'm realizing. So they're saying like his jacket is really fucking tough and durable. It's fucking bear proof. So it's going to be, he can't just like rip it out. But, still, if you really want to nitpick, him being stuck in this lathe for 5 days is completely absurd. He could just take off his fucking jacket.
Right.
There would be many ways out of the situation he's in. But this is the least of this show's problems. So, but in this whole fucking stupid, trying to set up about bear-proof jackets, he's like, but in case I run into a bear or Dick Cheney, and then we hear a literal gunshot sound effect, like coming from where? Who knows? What do they call that? What do they call this? Like in the film biz, what is it? Diegetic or non-diegetic? Like it's like a sound that doesn't exist within the universe of what we're seeing. Yeah. And like they do that, and like we mentioned last time, they do that with like guitar solo stings after certain lines, like to make you realize that there's a joke being told. So this is basically more of the same, but they do a gunshot sound effect just in case you don't remember that Dick Cheney shot his friend in the face when he was hunting back in the Bush W administration.
Jesus Christ.
And so I was just screaming about this in my notes. Like, what is this show trying to say? Does it really think it's on different grounds than 2000s era neoconservatism? Fuck these fucking idiots, all caps. But, and I think it does. I think that Adam Carolla thinks he's like different from those type of conservatives. Like he's a different breed, right? You know, he outsmarts the wokes. He doesn't, you know, as you delineated for us last time, like it's like the online logic sort of conservative guy versus the like just, you know, fuck you, I do what I want MAGA guy, I guess. But they're like ultimately still the same and still espousing the same bullshit. Then of course they set up this fucking Pulp Fiction thing, which is so obviously set up after the fact when like later in the episode when they were writing it, they came up with the idea of like, let's reference an entire scene from Pulp Fiction and just do it word for word essentially, which is the whole Mr. Wolf like fixer scene. So then they're like, but how do we justify this? Okay, go back to the beginning of the episode where they're talking about spring break and tell us that the daughter is being sent off to fucking drama camp for spring break. And she just yells out for no reason, we're doing a kid-friendly version of Pulp Fiction. To which Birchum says, how is that even a thing?
Yeah.
Or somebody says that. I don't know. But then here's the joke. Here's the stinger. Here's the tag. You'll have fun. Just stay out of the pawn shop. So, you know, for the pulp heads out there who really know their Tarantino, they'll realize this is a reference to the GIMP scene. Oh boy. But the line that we really couldn't forget is that his wife tells him, you know, to text while he's gone. And he says, I hate text. It doesn't let you ignore people the way God intended. And the son says something like, you could do like voice to text if you just got a smartphone. And he delivers the immortal line.
It is the line of the show. And as we said,
do you want to say it?
No. Feel free.
I mean, I'll get a smartphone when you stop saying stupid things. Slams door.
There it is. Whew. The crowd goes fucking crazy. People are hooting and hollering. Children they're running up and down the aisles. People are throwing their babies in the air.
There's the meme of like the group of black youths like running around going, "Oh my god!"
It's the battle rap.
What is that meme even called?
It's the battle rap meme. Yeah. Yes, exactly. I love
picturing that. If they just inserted that like in full, like,
it would have been
like
very funny. Yeah.
I would have almost changed my mind about the whole fucking show. No, not really. But anyway.
Yeah, it is the line of the show. Everyone who's watched this show, like that's the one that stands out, I think, and they remember the most. It's so perfect because the stilted delivery, how dumb it is, how it plays into what we've been talking about, where it's just like it's doing like a pun, it's doing like the words, like, and how does it make any sense? Why would those things be related? Why would you get a smartphone when you stop saying stupid things?
Again, this is just them latching onto a single word and then like instead of just repeating smart, they're like, that doesn't work. What if we say something about stupid? Like that's like the full extent of the thought going into a so-called joke like that. In the very beginning of this episode, also when all the kids are making their stupid shit, like there's the one kid who's like a fucking, I don't know, like sort of like moody emo kid who also we didn't mention last time
and hasn't really been shown before. He only shows up for this bit.
He says something in one of the earlier episodes that was really weird. It was like a cutting reference.
Oh, yes, I remember that.
How he had to be hospitalized because he likes knives too much or some shit. It's just like very.
It's bleak.
I mean,
man.
Look, I think people can. I think almost any subject can be made funny, but obviously they handle the subject of cutting pretty poorly there, and it's not funny whatsoever. But anyway, this kid is like, he's a fucking slacker, so like he hasn't made anything, and he just like grabs like a wooden ruler and says like, oh, this is my project. And Birchum looks at it and he's like, this says made in China or whatever, and like that's kind of the end of it. I don't fucking remember, but it comes up later is what I'm getting at. And it comes up actually right now, where the reason his hand gets stuck in the lathe is because the ruler was like in the lathe. He's trying to pull it out, and when he gets caught in it, he says, this is another great wordplay joke, my trusty lathe has turned on me. Literally. So now he's stuck in the lathe.
He says something there that I don't remember. I couldn't quite catch it, and I was not able to like rewind and double check. But like, there's something about like, fuck. He's trying to say like that the kid has no potential with like his disability or something. Like it's. Anyway, like right before he grabs the ruler and gets caught. But yeah.
Oh, he's like talking to himself. Like,
yeah,
about
and he's
this,
like, with your
no good kid,
with your mental handicap, you have no whatever. And it was just like, why is this even fucking happening? Why is this? It's like an animated show, right? So you have to like record the lines. It's not like
right.
It's not like a fucking just a live action thing where you can like riff and like, oh, maybe this scene just like this guy just kind of said this thing, so we'll just leave it in. It's like an offhanded thing that has absolutely. It's not a joke. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't move the plot. It's just there. And it's like, why? Why?
I mean, this describes so much.
There
of the
is a lot of
show,
stuff that does that is like that, where you're like, why did you even? God damn it, man.
Yeah, truly, truly bad shit. And yeah, that's what's funny is just reminding yourself like they can't, like every line is purposeful. So when something, yeah. Keeping that in mind makes it all the worse, I guess.
It makes it that much harder because it is like, yeah, like if you're just riffing around, it's one thing, and like, just people like, improvising on set, sure. But this is like, it has to be filmed, it has to be edited, it has to be like animated. It's not, you don't just fuck around and say stuff.
You assume there's a script with the words written in it, yeah. So then, like, one of our like secondary plots, I guess you could say, is the mom and I guess her stepson, right? Yeah, we established this last time. Some other review pointed out that it's kind of funny that this family is like, sort of like a non-traditional family unit, which seems like to go against everything these like anti-woke nutcases like would rail about, like on that website that we talked about last time, Worth It or Woke.
Yeah.
Like I feel like they would downgrade any media for having like a non-traditional family in it. They'd be like, oh, look at, they're pandering to the wokes with this shit.
Well, I mean, they would, Birchum is a cuck because he's raising another man's kid. That is fucking. Right. That is not based. That is absolutely
very
not based.
unbased.
Yeah.
Also, his wife was not a virgin when he married her, so double cucked. So yes, the wife and the son are like just staying home for spring break, and they're like, "What are we gonna do? Oh, let's do a fucking like renovation project or whatever. Like, there's something fucking wrong with the floorboards in the house." And like fucking Birchum had said something like, I don't know, like "Don't touch my tools" or some shit like while I'm away. But they defy him. They defy the tyranny of Birchum, and they're like, "We're gonna prove that we are capable." So like the joke here is like, oh, when women and dumbass beta boys step out of their place, like they fuck everything up because they proceed to like fuck everything up when they try to fix it. But to show that they're like incompetent before they even like fuck everything up, they do some fucking cutaways to like the wife being like, Mr. Husband Man, I got the drill stuck in my hair. And it's like, and then like the son, like another cutaway, the son has nails through his hands, like Christ-like.
That's
and,
pretty
like,
good.
Birchum's reaction to his flesh and blood, the fruit of his loins, coming to him with nails running through the middle of his hands, is to just roll his eyes and scoff. Which I get, that's like they're trying, that's the edginess of it, that's supposedly the joke of it, but it just seemed like it's just like, what are we trying to say here, people? Like, it's based to not give a shit when like there's like so serious like harm to, like it just the tone of the show shifts all over the place so wildly with regard to stuff like this. Like if this was like a Rick and Morty thing where it's just like absurdity, like edgy absurdity all over the place, then it would be like fine. But it's not. It like tries to like ground itself in like realism a lot of the time, but then it has these stupid surreal cutaway moment things where like, you know, bears are smoking cigarettes and shit and whatever. Like, I just hate it.
You know what they do a lot of the time too, and like, you know, kind of talked about it before about how he's just not like, not likable or whatever, is like they break the jerk ass Homer thing. You know how people talk about that about Simpsons? Yeah. Like from the beginning, they kind of already like do what became like a gigantic like cardinal sin for the Simpsons for a lot of fans, but like after like 10 seasons or something, you know what I mean? They finally got to the point where people are like, they've really kind of gone down a bad path with this character where it's hard to like them. They did that within like 2 episodes. They're just like, they did it in the first episode. Yeah. It's like, I don't see how I like this guy. He's a dick to like everyone, including like his son that, as you say, he should care about. He absolutely shows no regard for him.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just very like, again, the just poorly constructed to put it nicely. It's like, this is not even like, it's like you could set aside everything. You could set aside like all the politics, all the like the stupid, confused sort of like ethics or whatever of it. It's still just like, it's kind of just incoherent and like really sloppy, like on like a basic storytelling level.
Right. There's one thing that you put here, and I didn't even notice it. Like newspaper gag, president forgets his name. Looks like it's Joe Biden, right?
It was fast. I was like pausing. I was like looking into everything here.
Even that like kind of speaks to it, like what you just said there, where it's like they're not committing to it, and it's like it's confusing, blah, blah, it doesn't make sense. Because I was just like, it just crossed my mind. It's like, I enjoy like Sam Hyde stuff. You know, we've talked about this in the past on the podcast. Like, the bad politics, it is not necessarily going to be an instant disqualifier for me. But it is like, if you're going to do that, just fucking go all the way. As you say here, like, why are you like not just making the fucking joke about Biden? Like have it be a picture of Joe Biden and say Joe Biden shits his pants. Like, you know, like why?
Yeah, and the gag is the title of the article is President Forgets His Name, which is already like a very lazy joke about Biden being senile, but still the pic looks nothing like Biden. So yeah, they just like they can't even do like a caricature of the guy. Like it seems like they're scared.
Right.
But then this hilarious part, he fucking realizes he can call 911. He like pulls out his cell phone. And he's like, should I call my wife? No. Call my friend? No. 911. Then he drops his phone, and he can like, God, this is so bad, man. So. The person the person on the other end of the line on 911 is speaking in Spanish, solely in Spanish.
Well, okay, but there's a thing when you pick it up, and there was like,
there an option? Prompt. I can't remember.
Yeah, well, it was and this is a thing too, right? That this is like a right-wing talking point that they love. And actually, this is an Adam Carolla talking point that he loves. Again, this like speaks to someone who's actually a fan and knows the history of Adam Carolla for the past 20 years. He loves to talk about like the default being Spanish. When you call into these phone numbers, why is the default Spanish? Right? Why do I have to press 1 for English? It's not true.
For anything.
It's not true. It's absolutely not true. But it is something that he has for years complained about, which is that when the fucking phone thing comes up, it says, press 1 for English, and then there's a pause, and then all he does is press 1 instantly. But in his mind, what that means is, oh, it's defaults to Spanish. I have to press 1 to get English.
The voice is saying in English, press 1 for English.
And then it says, press 2 for Spanish, but in Spanish.
Right.
But in his mind, what it's saying is, you have to press 1 for English. It should just automatically be English. I shouldn't have to press 1. And that's what happens with the phone. It tells him to press 1 for English, but it takes it to the next level where it actually proves his talking point that he said forever, which is that because he didn't press 1, then it just automatically goes to Spanish, which is not how it works.
Does it say press 1 in English in Spanish? I can't remember. Do you remember? I don't know.
It says to press a button for English, and then it says hold on the line for Spanish. That's what it says on the show.
Okay,
Yeah.
So then, all right. So it's
proving his
little
dumbass
pet
made
point.
a point. Yeah.
Yeah. And but also before it even gets to that, it says, due to recent efforts to defund the police, your wait time may be longer than you. And then I wrote here, unintelligible due to Adam Carolla's groaning noises. Like I couldn't hear the rest of the line.
Yeah, but then also they instantly pick up and are speaking Spanish. So I guess there is no wait times, whatever.
Yeah, for Spanish, please stay on the line. Gracias. I write, so true to life. Can't even speak English on emergency calls anymore. And then the operator speaking in Spanish. And then Birchum like tries and fails terribly. And it's amazing that you could even fail to do like a bad, like speaking Spanish poorly could potentially theoretically be funny, I guess.
Fun,
sort
interesting,
of.
Something. Yeah, this is just
But
nothing.
even the way they do that is so bad. He's like, I can't remember exactly what he says, but it's just that thing where like you say an English word and you add like a rosa or something at the end of it or whatever. Like it's just so bad. But then the person on the other end of the line says, "Sir, this is California. Please speak Spanish correctly, because you know the
Yep, it's the law.
The empire of California and its Spanish tyranny." He also says, "Why can't I ever remember Mexican?" Way to cut him down to size, Carolla, by saying the language is Mexican. What the fuck? What's next here? Yeah, I mean, okay, that's just some notes. Oh, right. He also has a flashback to Spanish class. He's like, "Come on, Birchum, remember your Spanish classes," or whatever. And the whole joke is it's him just like staring at the tits of his Spanish teacher when he was in high school or whatever.
Yeah.
And not.
And of course, she's talking
anything.
about milk, right? You know, 'cause she's got,
I didn't even catch
she's got
that.
The knockers. She's got the mommy milkers.
That's it's a little on the nose, a little on the areola, if you will.
Yeah.
And then he's suddenly having like a flashback to his childhood, like early childhood. Is that right here? He's acting like he's dying and seeing his laugh flash before his eyes. Like he's been stuck in this thing for like 10 minutes in the reality of the show at this point. It seems, I'm pretty sure, whatever. Anyway, it seems very
The
exaggerated.
timeline
that
is
like,
kind of all over the place.
it is. It's supposed to
yeah.
ultimately be like 5 days that he's
It was supposed to be a
stuck in this
week. It was
thing.
supposed to be all of spring break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And anyway, his mom is stretching. It seems like she's doing aerobics or maybe like yoga or something. But the funny reveal is that she's just stretching to grab a martini glass off the table.
Yep.
But it's just so fucking clumsy, this setup. Like, no, if someone was just wanting to reach for a drink, there would be no reason whatsoever to just be doing this like lunging, stretching exercise move. Like there's nothing blocking her way. It's just like it is just set up to be a like psych out gag,
Right.
which fails so hard.
Right. Yeah, there's like a wrestling thing that's kind of coming up recently where they're rehashing this same old story over and over again about like the death of WCW, right? And people are talking about it because like part of it is this guy Vince Russo, who was known for like really loving to swerve the fans. He loves to swerve and trick the fans. And this is like the example of what, you know, it's described as, where it's like, yeah, you can like swerve people, you can trick them, you can make them not see it coming by doing something that makes absolutely no sense. And that's what this was. It's like oh yeah, you didn't see it coming because it doesn't make any fucking sense. Like it's not, you didn't like write a good trick or a story or do like a subversion thing. You just like set up a reality where nothing makes any fucking sense and then you deliver it on like, oh, isn't it crazy that this thing happened that would never actually happen? That's wild, right?
It's like, you think he's reaching into the refrigerator to grab something to drink, but pull back the camera and he's actually just sitting down on the toilet to take a shit. Like,
What the
okay,
fuck?
but
How in the hell? What?
But
Can he even do that?
Yeah, it's just that it's just the capital R random and regarded parts of the show just shining through. And then like little Birchum is like watching TV, and I think this is maybe the first time we see the burly man character, and even if it's not, it is, I guess, right? And this is finally where Patrick Warburton comes in with his trademark deep voice, and he's burly man, a incredibly original play off of like, you know, the brawny like paper towel guy, I guess, which The Simpsons already fucking did, and they called it burly. I only remembered this because I was searching for pictures of burly man for the
Oh
the
my
episode
God.
art. And what came up when I searched like burly was like The Simpsons take on the brawny guy, which was they called burly. And you know, I think in that it was used to the comedic effect of like Marge like having like sexual fantasies about like a paper towel, you know, mascot. But anyway, so I guess there was another thing that made me think of The Simpsons.
Yeah. He's like meant to be like a cigarette mascot, but also like,
well, it's a frozen
man.
food.
But it's frozen
like
foods. But they do show him smoking cigarettes at like a point, you know.
The bear is smoking.
Okay.
So here's the epic random element. He rides a bear like one would a horse. He's got like a cowboy hat on. He's got a big push broom mustache. He's the paragon of manliness. His bear smokes cigarettes for some cool reason.
It makes sense. Don't question it.
And yeah, and he is solely the spokesperson for what do you call them? Like TV dinners.
Yeah, it's Hungry Man dinners.
And so little child Birchum is watching TV, and in this commercial they're also like on the moon for some reason, whatever. And he's like, "Mommy, can I be an astronaut?" And she says, you could be anything I want you to be. I mean, you want to be a social worker, ACLU lawyer, a folk singer. But an astronaut? No. The only thing worse than an astronaut is if you became one of those construction jerks next door, ruining my meditation sessions. So she's like this is obviously Carolla working through his like mommy issues, I'm pretty sure, because doesn't he always talk about like my parents were kind of shitty and neglectful or whatever, even though he had like kind of a normal middle class upbringing. I don't know, whatever. But she's like this kind of like grizzled alcoholic, like neglectful mom, but then she's also like a touchy-feely like hippie who wants him to be a social worker or a folk singer. It's just a little bit confused. And then this is all I think just set up for this next stupid moment we see, which is the construction jerks next door. And this is supposed to be like Birchum's origins, right? He's like, he looks out the window and sees a cool multi-ethnic group of bros raising a wall, chugging beers, and then jumping into a convertible full of babes and taking off. And that's the joke, I guess.
Yeah.
You could call it. Anyway, I'll try to move along a bit faster here.
Sure. But showing the kid there, I don't even. It's like kind of plays into like the thing that like I was thinking about earlier with like and this is the first time that they show young Birchum. Like it almost feels like it would be intentional, because I can't imagine it not being that. Like it's like kind of it plays off of the, I don't know, like a weird stereotype, because they show him as a kid being a fucking fat loser who gets picked on.
Yeah.
And so it's like,
but they never show how he like grew out of that.
Sure.
Either.
But they just like the idea that like basically it's like very obvious that like a lot of like all of the stuff that he's doing about being manly and all this stuff is like a pastiche that he puts on to cover up for the fact that his natural state was being a fat loser. But then it's like, but then why is it impossible for you to then like have, you know, some kind of like pathos or like understanding for your kids just being like similar? You know what I mean? Like the kid is actually like you, but you're like upset that he isn't doing like this thing where he's forcing himself to fake being something else. You know what I mean? Like, that stuff feels like intentional, almost trying to put some depth, but they never really deliver on it in any deeper way, other than you have to, like, sub-narrative put it together in your head by just seeing that he was, like, a fat loser kid who now pretends to be a manly man.
I think what they may be going for is, this is just more criticism of, like, woke liberal parenting. It's like, he's only a fat loser because he was coddled into being a fat loser. But then he grew up and, like, got his conservative logic brain on in, like, high school, and, like, started to play football and joined the military and become a fucking man's man all on his own. But when he was letting the nanny state and his
literal nanny
take care of him, he was just like a fat, coddled little, coward.
Sure. All right.
And also, like, later in, like, some of these latter episodes, like, it shows how much he, like, loves his, like, hard ass, like, gym teacher who, like, just verbally abuses all the kids. And, like, he's like, yeah, coach what's his face, like, he really, like, taught, like, he could fat shame, like, with the best of them. And, like, it's like implied that, like, he, like, pulled him out of this fat loser rut by being a complete fucking asshole to him.
But he was also a weird loser. It's another part of it that, like, Carolla just doesn't understand. He's like, it's not possible for him to make a character likable, because he, like, even implies that the fucking coach was a loser, because he's, like, talking about his divorce. And, if Sheila gets the boat, then I'm going to take it out on you guys on Monday. And it's like, okay, so, like, this stuff is not really about, like, instilling virtue or anything. It's just about being a sadist because you're, like, emotionally distraught from your real life, so you're just taking that out on the kids. Like, okay, so am I supposed to think that that's good? I think that's good that this weird sadistic freak is, like attacking children because he's mad about his bitch wife or his bitch ex-wife. Like,
I think at the very least we're supposed to think it's funny and edgy and epic, because it's, like, transgressive, right? It's like, oh, like, because but
it completely contradicts the concept of this being good. Like,
of course, yeah, of course. Like, none of this shit like jibes together. Like, it's so right. There's a lot of, like, self-contradiction going on in the show and within the mind of Adam Carolla. But, like, when he talks about, like, in an interview or whatever about this and about the character that he invented, this, wildly original character that was just based on literal teachers he thought the idea of a teacher that never went into teaching with, like, a passion for teaching or, like, wanting to better kids' lives was funny. Like, that as a premise is just fucking a knee slapper to him. Like, a teacher who hates his students, that by itself, without doing anything else to it, is fucking hilarious.
Right. Even though it completely contradicts every other part of your ethos. And I already talked about it in the other episode. The entire idea of this show retconning the Birchum character into, like, a positive, thing also just completely flies in the face of years of how he's characterized this person. Right? This was a character that was meant to be, like, derided and was just, like, mocking and making fun of them. And now he's valorized because he's a troop or whatever. Like, it just, this just shows, like, how, like, he has an incoherent belief system because he's really just cobbling things together, trying to grasp at relevance. And we're one episode in and I'm getting into this shit? Okay, moving on.
It's all right. Like, I think you maybe told me, or some, I don't know, because I'm not as familiar with the character, like, outside of this show. But, like, the other thing is they used his, like, the character's, like, Vietnam War experience was used as a punchline. Like, oh, look how funny it is that he's traumatized and is having flashbacks. But to be fair, that was also, like, the style of the time in the 90s. Like, there was a lot of, like, deranged Vietnam War vet kind of humor, but, like, it's so fucking hacky, especially, like, and I know we talked about this, but, like, the timeline is so fucked up in this if they're supposed to be in Vietnam. And I got I got a little bit into the comments section of a review of this show, and some people were arguing about this, and they're like, they somehow got the idea in their heads from I don't know what authority, but they're like, actually, they're said to have served in Grenada or Grenada, however you pronounce that war,
Sure.
that country.
Yeah.
And then that makes it even funnier because like a naval officer in that war that like Americans, like even the most like patriotic, like war hungry Americans want to just forget ever happened because it was such a fuck up. But like if you were on a boat during that, the person described it as like you were just getting like a free cruise. Like it was just so
just
like not
sat
seeing any action
in the water for a couple hours just hanging out.
But they pointed out still, like, even if that's the case, like he should be like in his late 60s on the show, which he's not. But anyway, we'd already talked about how stupid the timeline is on this. But so then we like go back to the mom and the son, like they think they fixed the floor, but then they realize it's all fucked up. And there's a like to celebrate, the mom's like, let's have a beer. I know, one of Birchum's beers. And this is when I realized she only calls her husband by his last name.
Right, just Birchum.
Which is insanity.
Right.
Like,
it's also...
no one would ever...
That was an insane stilted delivery as well. And like we kind of talked about it before where we gave Megyn Kelly credit for being one of the better actors. And it's not her fault because it's like the scripting, but it is like, we should celebrate by having a beer. I know what kind of beer.
She's not a voice actress. She's a fucking news broad.
She's a news anchor. She's not a voice actress. And again, like I said, it's the script because no person would say that. No person would say, I know what we should do. We should celebrate by having a beer.
Yeah.
One of Birchum's beers. Who would fucking say that? No one would say that. No one talks like that. Also,
when you're talking to when you're referring to not only your husband, but your husband,
the father,
like, referring to the son, or saying to the son, referring to the father, your dad, last name.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's again like a minor.
No, it's not. It's not minor. It's fucking crazy.
It's incredibly weird because it happens throughout. Like I just didn't really notice it the first time through because there's a lot. There's, as you maybe could tell, there's a lot to take in this. Like it's just an endless fucking stream of this bullshit.
Yeah, so, you're going more macro with it, which I do agree with. But even to me, on the like the micro level, that specific moment of it is insane because you would never in a fucking million years be like, we should drink a beer. I know, one of Birchum's beers. You wouldn't say that. No one would say that. You would just be like, we should celebrate by having a beer. And then you would just go grab the beer that's in the fridge. You wouldn't be like, we should celebrate by having a beer. Oh, yes, I know. Even if you didn't say Birchum and you said the person's name, you wouldn't be like, Josh's beers. We would have one of Josh's. Because everyone would know that you live in the house with the one person who has beer in the house. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, I think what they're going for, and this is not defense at all, but I think in their minds, they're like, well, we got to show that she's doing something a little bit naughty. Like she's transgressing against her husband even more. Because like she's already touched the tools and like tried to fix something. So, strike one. But now she's going to cuck him further and drink one of his precious Atlantico beers, which by the way, is there any reference that I'm missing for the name of this beer?
No, it's just Pacifico.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Okay. But they live on the West Coast. All right,
I know. But that's why he knows about Pacifico, because that's a common beer here in Los Angeles.
But then all they're doing is they're like, what's the opposite of Pacific?
Exactly. Just like we said, how many of the jokes on this fucking show are just like, let's pick a word and then do either repeat it or the opposite. And that's what they're doing.
And I was almost trying to like steel man a little bit the idea of like, okay, am I nitpicking too hard about the, because I just didn't get it. I was like, what is the reference here? And like, you pointed it out perfectly, but I was like, trying to steel man it for a second for some reason to give them benefit of the doubt. And I was like, okay, like it's just the name of the beer, like whatever. It doesn't have to be like some deep, funny reference because I was like, oh, The Simpsons, like Duff. That's not like a deep, clever reference to anything necessarily. But then it forced me to think about why Duff is like a funny word or like a good choice for a fake in-universe beer. And like, part of it is like, it's like it's kind of a silly sounding like one syllable word, like Bud or Coors. And then Duff also like sitting on your Duff.
Yes.
Like that's the implication, I guess, as well.
Right.
But anyway,
there's something, it feels right. Like you said, like when you think about Coors, Miller, Bud, Duff fits in, right? So like for an American macro lager, it sounds like it could be. And then it does have the double entendre of being like the play on sitting on your Duff and drinking beer. So like that actually works on a lot of levels.
It does.
Atlantico just being the opposite of Pacifico.
Now knowing what it's trying to do makes me so angry.
Isn't it fucking infuriating? This is why you don't compare this show to The Simpsons, right?
Yeah, it's. I gotta like wash my brain after this and watch some like classic Simpsons episodes. But all right, and then right here, I hate how he can't get his fucking arm out of the lathe.
Sure.
We already kind of talked about that, how stupid it is.
I liked, when he knocked over the alcohol, I feel like we've already gone past it, but we've come back around, that he sets up like a joke that would almost make sense, but then delivers like the answer that doesn't make sense, where he goes, how many times have I said, would it kill you to screw on the cap? And then you would say, like, and now I'm dying, or now I'm going to be killed, or whatever, right? But instead he goes, now I'm screwed, which doesn't,
boy,
that's not how that joke goes. And then it's made worse by the fact that they like felt the need to be like, we have to keep this simple, you're like, and so then that plays into the song that's now like his like fucking, delirium tremens, like fucking dream of the Tools singing a song to him where they're saying, who's screwed now, is like the chorus of the song, right?
Is that in this episode?
Yeah.
Oh, it is?
So,
we skipped over that?
We haven't gotten there yet, but we're
really?
skipping there. It was like the next thing. It was the next thing.
For some reason I thought that was the beginning of that. Anyway,
no.
But yeah, we definitely have to talk about that.
Like so it feels like what they did is they intentionally didn't do the joke that would actually make sense and be funny, where it's like, how many times did I say would it kill you to screw on the cap? Well, now it's killing me. Like, okay, that's simple. That's effective joke writing. That's how it works. It's not that clever, but you get it. Instead going, now I'm the one that's screwed. So that then we can get into the song where the Tools are saying, who's screwed now? And then they cap it off. You took the note here. They cap it off that during the song, the Tools have to say, Tools lives matter. Yep. Which is an insanely dated reference at this point. Like,
I mean, even if it was timely, it's not bad.
Good. Yeah. But it's just like, yeah.
And then speaking of how they just like take the way that they deal with cultural references and it's just so inept and fucking lazy within this like fantasy of anthropomorphized tools, they literally just copy without adding or subtracting anything from it to make it their own. The fucking marching hammer imagery of The Wall, Pink Floyd's The Wall. And it also made, I don't think they were consciously going for it, but it made me feel like they were trying to do like a play on that amazing like sort of psychedelic sort of drug scene, whatever montage in a Big Lebowski, where like, the giant bowling pins or whatever are like, what I'm talking about? Anyway, it's Saddam Hussein's there handing him bowling shoes.
I just dropped in to see what condition my condition was in. What condition my condition was in.
Anyway, great part of a great movie, and this is the opposite of that. But it was like the first thing that came to mind. It was like a sort of hallucinatory scene that's like trying to be funny and like music oriented or whatever, but just total failure. Yeah. And this will not be the first time that they rely on like toxic chemicals leaking out somewhere to like quote unquote advance the plot. So it's just like, oh, how can we make him hallucinate? Just the chemicals in the shop in the wood shop will make him see shit or start crying, which we'll get to, eventually if we ever get there. But
maybe someday.
I don't know,
maybe on episode 3.
So then he's like, as he's like, sort of in his delirium, he just goes, he's like, I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, and he writes the name Denise in like some fucking sawdust on the floor. He's like, Denise. So we had a cutaway to him like sitting on the couch watching football, drinking beer. I've never seen that before on TV, especially not any great animated TV shows. But to make sure that we know that we're looking at Denise, the first thing we see is her name on her name tag on her shirt that says Denise.
Hell yeah.
And then Denise immediately takes off her wedding ring and says, "There, I'm a lesbian now." To which he wittily retorts, "Well, that explains the Subaru."
Nailed it.
What happens now? Do we get a girlfriend? No, I'm leaving you. Then she looks at the football game. She rattles off a bunch of like football jargon. This makes Birchum realize like exactly what he's losing. And she just like, walks out. It's also to reinforce the fact that she's definitely a lesbian, right? Because only lesbians can know about sports stuff.
Yeah.
And then I noticed the detail of behind him on the wall is like an Andy Warhol style print. But there's no Campbell soup cans, no Marilyn Monroe. No, get this. There's hammers.
Oh.
There's hammers.
Yep.
Because he likes tools and stuff.
That's right. That's right.
But also, why would a guy like him have a fucking Andy Warhol fucking print hanging in his living room? But anyway, maybe it's because the hammer part neutralizes the woke gayness of it.
It's
I don't know. And then he cuts back to him. And
it's a reference to Paul Pelosi and the hammer parties.
Hammer homies having a hammer party. Yeah. Cuts back to him sitting fucking stuck in the lathe, and he goes, "I should have fought harder." Wait for it. For the 2-chick arrangement. As if that were ever in the cards. But, it's epic, edgy, random, so whatever.
This is one where it's like, the joke is complete. I mean, the joke is already bad enough, but it's completely ruined by the delivery. And it's like that mix of like poor voice acting, poor animation, and maybe it's like the frame rate thing is throwing stuff off. It's just like, it's like almost a joke, but because you're not just like delivering it like as a person, it just completely misses, everything.
Well, because he does the like bad, it's just bad comedic timing, right? I mean, that's what you're saying anyway. Yeah. Like the delivery, like he puts this huge pregnant pause in between the setup and the punchline to make sure that you know that it's a punchline.
Right.
I should have fought harder for the 2-chick arrangement. Right. Get it? You thought I was going to say fought harder for my marriage, but no. I bobbed and weaved all around that shit to land on this amazing joke. So like then we're back to the son and the mom. Like the house is basically falling apart. Like they tried to put a new floorboard in and ended up just like flooding their entire house, and, like lighting everything on fire. Like that's the joke, I guess. It's like, oh, it's all out of control because I've got a woman's brain and you basically have a woman's brain too because you're a cucked beta fucking gamer, son. And Then we're back to Birchum. He's just like having a full-on hallucination. This isn't a cutaway. This is just he's just hallucinating now.
Right.
I guess because of the fumes, and like it's his dead dog from like childhood. And his dog is talking to him, and it's very edgy and fucking epic and random. And then he starts. Then we have a cutaway to him like meeting his wife for the first time. His the current wife, Wendy, Megyn Kelly wife. He's like doing construction work, and she's like having drinks with her like lady friend or whatever, and they're like watching him, and she's like getting all horned up, like watching this guy, like improbably horned up for this like schlubby Adam Carolla guy. She says to her friend, "Ooh, he's like a white Obama." What the fuck does that mean? Also, I mean, I guess it could work in the chronology. It's still just so stupid. Just makes me want to fucking have a one-man hammer party with my own fucking head. just
Yes.
out. Get me out of here. And then the gag is she approaches him, and he just starts his flirtation is to just say a bunch of like construction
he just says the
tool
names
jargon.
of tools.
Yeah. And she's like, ooh, and she's like blushing and getting like super horned
You're
up
a bad
about
boy.
it. And it just stops there. We never return.
Well,
to
we
their...
know that they eventually start fucking because they get married, so doesn't necessarily.
They never have
there.
a kid though, so there's really no
That's
proof
true.
of sex. But
we don't have any fuck trophies, as we like to call it. Anyway.
And then cut back again, like just everything is wrong with this show, like the editing, everything. But so then it like cuts wildly back to the mom and the kid with like their, the house burning down or whatever. The son says, "We should call a plumber, an electrician, and the fire department, and my therapist." But and she says, "We can't.
Gay.
You know Birchum's rule." And he interrupts by saying, "Always courtesy flush after ethnic food?" Oh God.
Jesus Christ. That's what he said. I couldn't catch that joke.
I was doing my due diligence, man. I was rewinding and shit. And she says, the real rule is never ever hire workers behind his back. And he says, "This is why I don't adult." So we get some using adult as a verb.
Which is like only like maybe 8 or 9 years fucking past that at this point. Okay, I'll give it to him. It's not like
It's pretty cutting edge
years
for
or
this
20
show.
years,
And then the mom very like ominously says, "There's only one possible solution." And like the son seems like terrified of what's about to happen. But all they're referring to is that they're going to call the fucking young sister to come in and do her Harvey Keitel, the wolf fixer Pulp Fiction bit. I don't know why that's like a scary solution. Like, I mean, maybe they're scared of how stupid and unfunny it is. But no.
Okay, here's the thing. In the world of the fucking show, they are not calling the wolf fixer person, right? Because they do not know that she's going to show up as Mr. Wolf and act like this because she's only picked up this affect from being at Pulp Fiction camp. So,
drama
so
school,
when they're
or drama
concerned
camp.
and they're being overdramatic about the idea of calling her, the idea is that they're literally just calling her daughter to come fix things.
So it's like we're relying on.
Yeah. The setup is
They
that
don't know she's gonna. They don't know she's gonna show up as that.
Yes.
Okay.
The setup to the joke is the idea that they don't want to call her because they're going to have to deal with the wolf. But there's absolutely no reason why they would predict that because the wolf is a new affect that she's picked up within the past couple of days at camp.
Right.
So literally the logic of that is just profoundly fucking broken and stupid. Why would they care? At this point, they've shown literally no reason why they're like concerned with interacting with her up until this point.
I guess it's just because they have to let her know that they fucked up and that like maybe she has something over them. But whatever, we don't need to try to justify this for them.
But you get my point.
So, oh, totally, yeah. It's completely idiotic. And then she does show up, and like this scene is just, it's like 2 minutes long. It's like, and for a 20-something minute show, that's a lot of of real estate. That's a lot of time for something so dumb that they basically just like most of it is just line for line cribbing from the scene in Pulp Fiction, just without the swears, because this show's too afraid to do swears. But yeah, it's just she's literally wearing a fucking tuxedo. I mean, I guess that would have been because she's a drama camp and she's just in costume. So I guess that there's some justification for wearing the tuxedo. I mean, who knows how this like 12-year-old kid got there from camp like suddenly or whatever, but whatever. That's I'm losing the thread here. But the main point is they just take full lines from the movie. They don't add anything. Right. There's no parody. It's not satire. Nope. It just sucks.
It's literally just copying. And then
it's just
guess they
copying,
fix everything,
but making it less funny because it's not Pulp Fiction.
Right. They fix everything somehow, even though it's like water damage and shit that would take like forever to fix. Somehow it's just fixed over the course of like a couple hours, as you said.
No, it's just magic, and she's, if I'm remembering right, she's not saying anything specific really. She's just like, you're going to need to get some towels
and some fans.
Yeah.
Towels, fans, and then obviously replacing a pipe that got, poked by nails, and that's it.
Thanks for this
special.
Thanks for this fixer wisdom that you provided to help us out here. Then we get like some of the most egregiously stupid cutaway scenes from back with Birchum trapped in the lathe. He says, "I always thought I'd have a much more glorious death," and then it just shows unchanged. Like again, just like with the Pulp Fiction thing, they don't change anything. So it's like a scene from Rambo. He's just like shooting a bunch of people and getting shot or something. Then Braveheart. And then Thelma and Louise. Oh, this is funny because they're like, wow, it's real gender bending shit. Like he and his token black friend Gage are holding hands in the convertible going off the cliff. He says something right before they go off the cliff that just doesn't matter. It doesn't add anything to it. But yeah, so there's that. It's like, hey, remember those movies? Those were movies. Wouldn't you rather be watching anything but this right now? Here's some ideas of what you could watch.
Here's some pieces of that. We can pretend like you're watching it.
Try The Simpsons. Try Thelma and Louise. We can skip that. Fucking it doesn't matter.
We should just kill this episode at this point. What's the
yes,
what's the end
truly.
of it?
It basically ends with like the kid, the cutter, mopey emo kid shows up, and I ironically, he's the one who ends up saving him by like pulling out a pocket knife and cutting the jacket.
This episode
sleeve off.
Finish is just like so anticlimactic. Like I don't even. Anyways.
Oh yeah, yeah. It ends so that it ends with it like it just ends with the family all sort of regrouping back at their house, and they're watching like some reality dating TV show, and that itself is supposed to be.
I guess
funny,
that's the joke.
It's not.
Is it like Birchum also cares about the reality show? Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I can't believe Kimberly Lethan or whatever. They make up kind of one of those funny millennial names or whatever. But the final scene is, oh, remember token black guy? He's still at the campsite where he's proceeded to get shit faced on all the beers that he brought for him and Birchum to drink together. But now he gets attacked by a bear because bears are, for some reason, a constant in this show. Bears equal funny, apparently. And the bear just starts mauling him while he screams, "It's not bear-proof." And as I wrote in my notes, I'm ready to eat a gun. The end.
It's not good. It's not good. Not good, folks.
Episode 5, Oh, the Humanity. This one basically centers around... a hilariously named knockoff of Habitat for Humanity, which is called, what was it, Humans for Humanity? I can't even remember. It was something. Humans for Humanity would have been funnier than whatever they chose. But it's just Homes for Humans or something like that. It doesn't matter.
It's not even funny. It's just so nothing.
So it basically Oh, go ahead.
No.
I'm talking forever.
Yeah. I'm just like trying to think like, how do we cut through this a little bit more instead of just going line by line. But
yeah. We don't need to do that. We can
especially this episode, which is like incredibly fucking boring. Like the main plot is they're doing Homes for Humanity or whatever they're fucking calling it. They do show a little bit of like the B plot is that the school is doing a Sadie Hawkins dance. And
Jesus.
And like they come up with some stuff with this, like the point with Carponzi going over the loudspeaker and being like, you're all the same level of attractiveness to me, but I don't find you, that doesn't mean I find you attractive. I think you're all equally ugly or whatever. And it's just like, what is even...
That's just more owning him by his own logic.
He can't. Right? He's like getting so confused. He can't understand what is what and this and that. So it's just like, God damn it. Like just really weak. I think maybe this is the episode where I kind of felt like Roseanne was kind of like the star player. Like her voice delivery and some of the jokes on her character are like the only funny fucking things on the show.
But she's also barely kind of in it.
Yeah, she's barely in it.
She does the voice of one of like the old ladies on the construction site, I noticed. Which is like another really bad throwaway joke where the two old ladies are like shooting nail guns at beer bottles, right. And she goes, "King of beer's my ass."
Yeah, that's perfect.
But the Sadie Hawkins dance thing cannot go like uncommented on.
Sure, I see you have a hyperlink here.
What an antiquated fucking reference. Like, no, I'm almost positive, like, even for like fun, like kind of like self-aware kicks, I don't think any schools are holding Sadie Hawkins dances anymore. Yeah, no. Like, this is something from like the 1930s. And it's, for those who don't know, and understandably, a lot of people might not know off the top of their head, all it is where the girls have to ask out the boys to the dance. Isn't that, wow, flipping everything on its head. Right. And so like the Roseanne character says into the PA, like the announcement thing, she's like Sadie Hawkins, like a woman so ugly she had to ask a man to marry her or something like that. And Carponzi, flips out and starts going on about like gender and like you said, the same level of attractiveness, blah, blah, blah. And there's a flashback Birchum as a tubby loser self in gym class. And again, this is more like, but the cutaway comes from after Birchum as an adult says, when we were kids, we knew how to man up. So it's more of this like man me up shit. Right.
But then it just shows him again being a fat loser and referencing like a movie again, showing like just doing
Braveheart specifically, which they just referenced in the previous episode. Yeah. This like butch girl somehow has some blue paint at the ready and rubs it on her face to look like Mel Gibson in Braveheart, which if we're following the fucking timeline of this stupid ass show, this would be like the 1970s.
Sure.
So I don't, first of all, she's improbably like painting her face in the middle of gym class. Second of all, she's doing a reference to a movie that wouldn't come out for 20 some years. Anyway.
And then there's the reference to like Britney Spears. They cut to the, Britney Spears, she'd be good at demo.
This is so bad.
And this is from, like I mentioned earlier where I said black, like the Tool Lives Matter, at least it's like somewhat like reference. It's only like 5 or 6 years old. This is a reference to Britney Spears from fucking 2007.
Yeah.
That is like almost 20 years ago.
She's holding an umbrella, just so you get it, just so you understand the reference. And she immediately shaves her head, and then she just goes berserker on like this
to destroy the building.
Demoing it and but like so like someone had that in their head as a joke, right? That's how this was started. I'm positive of it. They're like, what remember Britney shaving her head going crazy? How do we cram that into the show? So like the way they get to that is so lazy and like comes out of nowhere, where like the wife, they're approaching this construction site for the Habitat Homes for Humanity, whatever. And she's like, oh, this is so great. I feel like Britney after she got her life back. So they're like referencing like her like emancipation shit. But then the reference is to something from almost 20 years ago. Right. And it's deeply unfunny. And it's all because Birchum's is like, yeah, that chick could really demo a house or whatever. And it's just so fucking awful. I also want to point out that, so like when I was looking at like, you know, the cast of this show, like last time when we were talking about it, I was like, oh, Danny Trejo. And like, I was like, when's Danny Trejo going to show up? This is the only time he shows up. Like, but he's like kind of like top listed in like, in the cast. And
his character like delivers like maybe 3 lines.
3 lines probably, yeah. He's basically just like growling as a Latino gang, you know, stereotype who happens to be doing charity work. So that's funny, right, everybody?
Sure. You mentioned here the Gal Gadot Wonder Woman fake sweat. I don't even know, like, because that's another one where it just plays into like, does Adam Carolla even like where he's like kind of out of touch with like where he is on the spectrum of this whole thing? Because Gal Gadot obviously is like, oh, you could make fun of her, especially on Wonder Woman. Oh, she must have like some kind of fake sweat spray, but like. Now, especially on Daily Wire, like Gal Gadot would be like a, you know, like a patron saint of virtue for them because she's so pro-Israel. Yeah,
at least for that reason. But she is also kind of just a straight up lib or whatever. But no, I had the same issue with how they reference Alyssa Milano, which made me have to remember that she's like because left people on the left, you know, whatever, like my side of things, like are quite hostile towards someone like Alyssa Milano because she's just like a blue MAGA type, I guess, for lack of better reductive labeling. But they reference her as if like, you know, she's the enemy of conservatism, right? So like it just like it made my head spin for a second. I was like, they don't like her either. Like I forgot basically.
It's like they're saying like she would be a letdown, but at least would be famous. So they're not necessarily like super rough on her, but yes, they are like saying like she's bad or whatever. So yeah, there's basically we just get a lot of like a mix of, it's very weird because they just show that everyone else on the site is inept except for some reason Birchum's family. They're all working hard and being good, but that's not going to be enough. So it's just like they kind of reference that and then they re-reference and do the same thing again later. It just feels like really redundant to basically do the same story over. Like this episode kind of like recycles the same plot a couple times through, being like, oh, Birchum's so happy to see his kids and his wife working hard, but there's a bunch of other people on the site that aren't working hard and they're being dangerous now. And then Burly Man shows up again. Like, but this
Burly
time
Man shows up.
It's weird the way that Burly Man shows up because he like at some points is a hallucination, he's a memory, and then here it's like he's just there as like emotional support. Like I don't fucking
He just appears randomly because it's random. And look, he's on a bear. Isn't that fucking random? And fucking epic bacon fucking whatever.
Yeah.
And there was a part about that I noticed. It was like, so first of all, Burly Band says 2 words that should never go together: charity and work. Yeah. Like women and opinions. And he starts laughing at his own joke and then coughing. And then the bear starts coughing. And I just wrote, what is this? Are they mocking smoking? It happens in other episodes too, as if coughing itself is comedy.
Coughing is funny. Yeah. Everyone knows that.
It's like, okay, like they're like, oh, the bear smokes, but we're going to show that like smoking is still bad actually. So like, wow, what an edgy fucking, like, it's just like, pick a fucking thing and stick with it. Right? Like, it's so like, it almost being like, it makes me feel almost like conservative or something. Just be like, stop being such fucking pussies about this, and like just do the thing you claim you want to do. Like, offend us, right? Like, but they can't even do that. Like, even the most like milquetoast way. But then we hear more like men were men shit from Birchum, and then. Burly Man also says, next you're going to tell me too much sun is harmful. This is perfect. This is perfect of the whole attitude of like, they don't really stick with him being a hard ass conservative, because then he starts to interrupt Burly Man and go like, actually, like he's about to correct him, like, you know, too much sun is harmful.
The sun can be bad for you, but then the sun leads him to Yeah, he cuts him off and just leaves, and then the sun rays lead him to like a saw, which then now resets again to set us back up to like recycling the idea that like Birchum's happy to be here. Like they just keep waxing and waning. It's like this guy is just, his emotions just go all over the place. Like the idea that like, oh, you know, beta male cucks, they can't control their emotions. But like they show that from him constantly. He like goes back and forth from being stoked and happy to be here to being like fucking pissed off and ready to leave. He's just like, he can't control his feelings in any way. So yeah, it's fucking ridiculous. It's almost impossible to follow. The way that shit just like jumps around.
So also we should mention that Carponzi is improbably the foreman on this construction site, which like, you know, whatever, it's a fucking cartoon. I'm not expecting like in immense realism, but like even charitable organizations like Habitat for Humanity have like professional construction workers overseeing this shit. Like, but they make it out to look like, look, it's a bunch of like, you know, bleeding heart libs who are totally inept, like dropping their tools and fucking, you know, just can't do shit. And then this man bun gender man is like in charge of everything, and that's why it's a shit show. Right. And so there's, as I wrote here, more rhyming based wordplay humor, kind of, where Birchum says Carponzi says in response to being called the foreman, foreman sounds a little too formal. I prefer kindness coordinator. Good God. And then in the same conversation, Carponzi goes on, would you like to do some role reversal so we can inhabit each other's viewpoints? Birchum, no, I'd like to reverse my truck out of here and inhabit my couch with a beer.
That's right.
Good God almighty. That's actually like maybe the most perfect example of this kind of like, let's just pick a word and repeat the word back.
And somehow that's a joke. It's not a fucking, there's nothing funny about it.
And as Bertram walks away, the Jedi Carponzi goes, whoosh. I was like, is he doing a pussy whipped joke at Bertram's expense?
Sure, he's only there.
What the fuck is... Yeah. It made me see like why, which we didn't even mention yet. There's like all these fucking memes that are shipping Carponzi and Bertram, which is I guess kind of funny, although it's just also kind of homophobic in its own right. I guess. But it is funny to imagine Adam Carolla getting really mad about it. I'll say it's funny at least.
I hope so. I would like for him to be upset about it, but you know, the internet's weird now and people don't care as much. I don't know. Hopefully he gets mad about it. I'm like looking over the rest of this episode was so fucking weak, and there's like, I don't know. It's like, oh, haha.
It is. Just like I'll just like pick a couple of like bits, and then we'll get through it. Like because like the plot is like nothing basically.
Well, like I said, they keep recycling the same plot over and over. Right. This episode, they like recycle the same plot idea like 3 times.
The only other plot line is that like the teacher's pet kid whose name I can't remember, but he's been like a through line from episode 1, never doing really that much plot wise, but he's getting like romance advice because he thinks he's not going to get asked out to the Sadie Hawkins dance, and so Birchum like basically passes him off to Gage to like help him, you know, learn how to get laid and be a man or whatever. And there's one part where he basically the kid like fails to like impress these girls with Gage's advice, which is basically to like reenact just line for line a scene from Roadhouse. God.
Yep.
And like it fails, and then like so it cuts back to them talking, and he's like, I don't think I'm like ever gonna be good with girls or whatever the fuck he says. And Gage goes, are you rich? And he says no. And Gage goes, what's your shoe size? And he says 6.5. And then he says, nope, it's all over now. So it's like you're not rich and you don't have a giant dick apparently because your shoe size is too small. You're doomed forever. You just like put on your incel hat and sit in the corner forever. Very, very dumb. Very dumb. If you thought the main plot line was bad, the offshoot one is somehow worse. But we don't. There is another scene where like then he tries to get girl advice from the fucking woke Carponzi, and it's not even worth fucking repeating. It's just so stupid. It's just a bunch of gender shit. There is a part though where Carponzi just shows up to the group of kids that are hanging out, working at this charity thing, and he like without any other lead in, he just goes, "Hey kids, you want to learn about preferred pronouns?" And then it cuts to him tied up in a porta potty,
right?
And it's like they're showing how he's so dumb he doesn't even realize like that they don't like him.
Yeah.
So he says something like,
"I'll wait in here until someone finds me."
Right. Yeah. And then you hear almost whispered, "They'll make great Antifa someday."
Yeah.
Just
so it's like
stellar The Wire level humor. Yeah. I mean, the Daily Wire, that is. That's basically it. Fuck this episode.
Yeah,
it ends with Burly Man reappearing for no reason at all. Like,
who knows? There
was no reason before, but there's somehow less even in this last appearance. And he just rides off into the sky on his bear, and that's the end. Episode 6, the gym rope incident. Hoo boy. I described it here as beginning with a cold open that has like complaints about coffee that are like go back to what I think of as Dennis Leary bitching about how coffee isn't coffee anymore. It's all these frou-frou flavors and shit. You know, I just want it black as tar, you know, whatever he says. And that's like, it's just Adam Carolla's like even more watered down, shitty version of an already incredibly shitty joke from the early 1990s stand-up of Dennis Leary. Man. And incisive observations like, it's not even cream, it's powder. I could put plaster dust in there.
It says
it's whitener, not cream.
Yeah.
And then we find out later though that this is all this was just shoehorned in as a cold open because they need somehow something to come up later where they have Gage cover the security camera in the school, and he covers it with powdered creamer, which doesn't physically even make sense.
Nope.
But like that's like the whole reason they have this little stupid conversation in the teacher's lounge over coffee about what's the deal with powdered creamer. It's just, but they can't just leave it. They can't leave like shitty enough alone. They have to cut away within this cold open to another time when they're drinking coffee together, because it's like Gage says something like,
"This isn't the worst thing that you've put in my coffee," or sawdust wouldn't be the worst thing you put in my coffee. Yeah.
Yeah. And he takes a drink of coffee, spits it out, and his eyes are watering, and Birchum is cackling because he's like, "What? I thought you loved hot sauce." Cut to the cool intro music.
Yeah.
Excruciatingly unfunny, as the notes say here.
It's fucking brutal. Yeah.
And there's a whole thing about like the climbing rope in the gym has been removed by Carponzi, who again is just saying namaste for no reason as we see him in the gym. He's like, oh God, talking about we're going to do not a tug of war, but a tug of peace. Let's all sit down, and fucking Birchum says something about like, you have them all sitting Indian style, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, you can't say that. Not Indian style. And Gage responds to that with, even sitting is vegan with you.
Nailed it. That is so good.
Yeah.
That is so good. Yeah.
And there's a whole thing about fat shaming, so like that becomes like kind of a centerpiece of this episode, is about like fat kids being fat and how we enable them to be fat with our woke ways, and how, you know, rope climbing is like manly and whatever. Oh God! They also make two emotional support animal references in this episode. The first is during this scene where they say something. They just reference Carponzi's emotional support elephant for some reason, and then it's like Birchum and Gage standing around talking about kids these days, like you can't even fat shame anymore. Nowadays, Biggie Smalls would be an underwear model, saying that like, man, people are even fatter than ever. Birchum tells us that in my day, we listened to Thin Lizzy. Now it's Fat Lizzo.
That's so good. Can you imagine?
Gage literally says, preach, Birchum, at one point during this conversation.
He says, absolute church. Absolute fucking church. It's fucking crazy, dude. It's like, that's not even that is not a fucking joke. I'm getting back to where I was on the last time, where I'm getting back to the JQ when it comes to fucking Birchum. This is not...
It's the J question.
Yeah, it is not a fucking joke. That is not a joke. There's no... It's like similar sounding fucking noises. Like it's not...
Yeah,
Jesus
Liz.
Christ. Dude, okay, this cutaway. The marathon cutaway, where it's like, imagine the first person who ever ran a marathon, and then for some reason, Birchum is Doc Brown, and this is like the fucking... like the height of the thing I explained before was not understanding Family Guy jokes and thinking that you're doing one. Jesus Christ, that shit was fucking insane.
And it's not just him in the DeLorean. He's also got like the white,
he's got the hair,
brown hair, and
the goggles,
he's just talking to an ancient Greek who's running, and he's like, "You might as well like give up on that because in the future, marathon is going to mean things like playing Fortnite and binge watching Cake Boss."
Yeah,
and then he says, "Get in the car." So the fucking guy stops running and gets in the car, no questions asked, and it just ends with Birchum
"Oh my
asking,
God,
do you know what an Ethiopian is?" Cut back to reality.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is supposed. Like Jesus,
I mean,
Christ.
it's in reference to how. Like,
I know,
certain...
but like, what in the context?
No, but
like,
it still doesn't make sense.
How is it funny? Again, this is asking the JQ when it comes to fucking Birchum. Like, is that a joke? It's not.
Yeah.
It's not a joke.
No, it's just an empty reference. It's like, hey, we're vaguely talking about running. You know who else is good at running? No. Ethiopians. Ever hear of one of those? You ancient Greek guy. But where would that conversation had gone if they just let it play out, right?
Right.
What would he have?
No, I don't know what that is. I don't know.
No, even if he said yes, like
sure.
What would Bertram's response be? Like, well, they're good at running. So what? What does that have to say? It doesn't apply to anything.
Here's the other thing. This motherfucker doesn't speak English.
Oh, yeah, I mean, if we really want to get into the logic breakdown of this whole scene, the whole thing starts really falling apart pretty bad.
Yeah.
But, like, right before this happens, I just have to mention this part because it also kind of plays into something that happens later. But, like, he's just fucking ranting about kids being fat these days and, like, if we don't teach them to, like harden up and man up, like, they might as well start learning Mandarin because they're going to have to surrender to the Chinese overlords in Mandarin. And his eyes are like welling up like he's about to start crying. And like he denies crying like a man would. But then they leave the room and we see that fumes are really pouring out of this like lacquer drying closet or whatever it's called. The lacquer room. And so it's like, his manliness is justified in universe. It's like he really wasn't crying. It was the fumes that were making him cry after all. He wasn't just getting emotional thinking about the Chinese overlords like taking over Lady America. But anyway, there's more shit about like his like mean gym teacher like comes to him in a dream like as a ghost and basically was like, you're being too soft. You got to be hard on these kids.
You got to make sure that they can do stuff. Yeah.
He wakes up and he calls Gage in the middle of the night. He's like, we got to do a secret mission. And then they throw in some real funny comedy here where you hear like the wife talking in the background. And he's like, are you asking your wife for permission to do a secret mission? Do you think SEAL Team 6 asked old ladies for permission to shoot bin Laden? End of joke.
Yeah. Then that should have had a cutaway, right? That was like, there's so many times where there's cutaways for no reason. I was really expecting a cutaway there.
It could have been a cutaway. I mean, it would have been just as bad, basically. But like, they probably didn't have the money in the animation budget for another cutaway or whatever, but like, yeah, it could have been a cutaway to SEAL Team 6. I mean, it would still be so excruciatingly unfunny, but like, I don't know, somehow not as bad as just him saying it as if it's like a natural way to talk to your friend on the phone or whatever. But so they sneak into the school in the middle of the night and they reset up the climbing rope. And like he thinks the kids are going to love it for some reason because he's so out of touch.
Even though all of his flashbacks and memories, he fucking hated it.
Right, but he's like, but that's what made me a man. Being forced to do things I didn't like or whatever. And then he starts for whatever reason, he's going on a fucking rant about just wokeness again. And he's like, oh yeah, because like Carpanzi shows up the next day and is like I know what you did or whatever. And he starts like rattling off some like woke jargon. And he's like, you wokesters are always making up words. Latinx, divisive. Oh, sorry. He says it like this.
Divisive.
Latinx. Divisive. It's divisive. This is more just like, what words? A soy complaint.
Yeah. Just pronounce it right.
I don't like...
Yeah. And then is that making up a word? Pronouncing it differently? If you pronounce a word differently, did you make up a word? If you pronounce it in another way, it's not a different word.
It's also a legitimate way to pronounce that word.
Right.
It's just like, I mean, if it's anything, it's maybe like a UK versus US thing or something.
But it's like you had one. You wokesters are always making up words. Latinx.
Yeah.
A word that's an actual word. You're just saying it different.
Even that one, I would give him as an example of like woke wordsmithing. But then can't. It's like he's like so dumb he can't think of any other examples. Yeah. Well, then no. Here's where they do think of some examples because then they do 3 cutaways rapid fire after he says it's divisive. Cutaway to Carpanzi woke-splaining to different people in each one. He says no, intersectionality has nothing to do with traffic. No, you don't have to be pregnant to be a birthing person. And no, BIPOC is not a dead rapper. Ba-doom. Blow my brains out. Shoot me like Tupac.
BIPOC, here's the thing. BIPOC, not a word. BIPOC is actually not a word. So again,
true.
This is making, you wokesters are always making up words. It's an acronym, right? So yeah, it's just... Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I mean, you could have said terms, but you know, that term sounds pretty gay when you can just say words. Yep. So, and then here's like one of the ultimate fucking like slap your forehead moments.
Oh, yeah.
He has the gall to bring up humor and how you lefties don't know what's funny. You call some lesbian talking about cancer a stand-up special. You think NPR is, wait for it, LOL. Get it? Because like NPR is a 3-letter acronym and LOL is a 3-letter acronym. And it denotes humor, I guess. And he's referencing Hannah Gatsby, right?
Is that
her name?
It's though.
I wasn't sure because I've never
Hannah
actually watched
Gatsby
that.
doesn't actually talk about cancer.
That's what I thought. I thought she talked about like sexual assault something.
So here's the closest thing, and this is a deep cut for anyone who's just a Daily Wire fan and is not like Adam Carolla level plugged into the LA comedy scene. The only thing on this that makes sense is that he's talking about Tig Notaro.
Or I was actually, oh, you're right. Actually, that is probably it. But there's another lesbian who I think had a cancer thing.
Okay.
I think maybe I thought it was Carmen Esposito.
No. Carmen Esposito did a rape jokes special also.
Oh, okay.
So these are all sexual assault. The only thing that makes sense for the reference of being a lesbian talking about cancer would be Tig Notaro. And here's the thing about that. It's not a comedy special. The Tig Notaro cancer thing was not a comedy special. It's just a well-known, famous one-time
it was just something that happened
comedy
in her
set
life,
that happened. She did a comedy set at the
it wasn't a special though per se.
The Coronado, I think. God, I'm trying to remember the name of the theater. It's a small theater that I used to go to all the time in West Hollywood. Now I can't remember the name. One time she did a set where she got on stage. She was supposed to do stand-up. She had just gotten the news earlier that day before the set. It was not planned. And what happened is she's just, as she was introduced, she got on stage and she goes, "Hi, how's everybody doing tonight? I have cancer." And then the crowd is like laughing and whatever. And then this is well known because it was also talked about on This American Life. It's gone all over the place. It led to like books and all this stuff. It made Tig Notaro kind of like famous in comedy circles because what she ended up doing was spending her whole set just going like, "How's everybody doing tonight? I'm doing pretty good. I have cancer." And she just repeatedly just keeps saying, "I have cancer," but like in comical ways as if it's like a punchline. And again, like I said, Adam Carolla would know about this because he's tapped into the comedy scene in Los Angeles. And that would be the closest thing that comes even near this being a reference to something. Otherwise,
that is definitely the reference.
Yeah.
You're right. But like it, and I knew about that at least vaguely enough, but it still took me, like having to ask someone else about it to pin it down. But my first thought was just Hannah Gadsby, but then I was like, wait, did she talk about cancer? I don't think so.
No.
I think you're thinking of the famed LA theater Largo.
Yes.
At the Coronet.
Yes, the Largo. Yeah. Great space.
John Bryan's stomping ground. Paul F. Tompkins there a lot.
Yeah,
I remember.
They would record Doug Love's movies there pretty regularly. Yeah.
Okay. Well, before we start speaking too much about actually funny people like Paul F. Tompkins, continue to talk about this bullshit. So yeah, us lefties, we don't understand humor like Adam Carolla does.
Mm-mm.
The turn or whatever is that dun dun dun, the climbing rope has been tied as a noose, and as Carpanzi says, as with all things, racism is the only possible explanation. Got him by his own logic. But then they cut to what really happened, and they have this thing that they reference at least one other time in the show as well, where the janitor at the school is always listening to like classical music while he's like got his eyes closed somehow, but still like doing cleaning things, like pushing a floor polisher around.
The reference before was when Birchum was trapped in the lathe. He couldn't hear Birchum calling for him because he's wearing headphones. And it's not just classical music. He listens to ballet music and does classic ballet poses and moves while he's waxing the floors.
Right.
Yeah.
That's funny.
It is funny because you wouldn't expect a gruff, manly man, late night janitor to be doing ballet, right? That wouldn't be it.
And then they also use him, I'm sure, because he happens to be black or I don't know, some sort of POC.
Yeah.
And he's the one who accidentally makes this rope tie into a noose, but because he's got his eyes closed and he's listening to his music and he's polishing the gym floor, and he like swats the rope out of the way a couple times and it like arcs and just magically ties itself into a noose. So
right.
Twas the racial minority who tied the noose.
Right.
White man off the hook in more ways than one. This is what this show would do. Do some wordplay there. Then the Roseanne principal character is like mad at Birchum because he's like sent Carpanzi into like hissy fit or whatever. And she's like, "God damn it." She doesn't even say God damn it. There's like no swearing in this show.
Right.
But anyway, she's like, "Carpanzi was in a safe space all day." But then it got really confusing, her line delivery. I don't want to dig too much into this, but then basically she's like, he was in a safe space like until he wasn't. And it's like a cutaway thing. She's like that time he rubbed all the fur off of his emotional support ferret. And it shows him like nervously rubbing a hairless ferret.
Yeah. And
then she's like, that thing looked like a dick with eyes or something.
A dick with 4 legs.
Yeah, Jesus. And then she also says to Birchum, "What part of cancel culture don't you get?" It's just like, you got to learn how to play the game. And he's like, "Oh, I refuse."
No.
Anyway.
Yeah, then this is where they explain, like you mentioned earlier, that the coffee whitener is like now is the smoking gun that proves that Gage was involved. But you can, you're a white supremacist, and, obviously, you can't be black and white supremacist. And it's like, well, there's a lot to this. I don't need to.
Confronting him.
Yeah. And it's just, it's this great, like, you build this fucking straw man of, like, the stupidest man on earth who you put the stuff that you don't like into his mouth, and then you just, like, knock him down by easily doing, like, facts and logic. And it's just like, yeah, but, like, if you know anything, again, scratch the surface 2 seconds, you know how it works. Yes, like, people of color can be instruments of white supremacy. White supremacy is not, like, just a thing that you are. It's a fucking societal norm, blah, blah, blah. But Carponzi's too stupid to dance around it.
Their point is.
Yeah. Their point is just, you're trying to blackmail a black male. Get it?
Yes,
get it?
Which
You
is
fucking
literally
get it?
the line.
Yeah.
And the other quote was the Carponzi says, telling a black man he can't be a white supremacist is like saying a woman can't have a penis. And it's just like, Gage's eyes just bulge out like, what?
Damn, son,
a black man can be whatever
this?
he wants. A black man can be whatever he wants, even a racist white woman.
Right.
And
Which
this whole
feels
point,
like a reference to Caitlyn Jenner in a weird way to me, where I'm just like, but Caitlyn Jenner was not a black man, but anyways.
But they make reference to shit like that multiple times where they're just like, black people can be white and white people can be black. You can just be whatever you feel like. It's that whole line of criticism in quotation marks that the Daily Wire set likes to use with regards to trans stuff. But a horrible fucking wordplay joke happens right in this conversation as well, where Gage realizes he's being blackmailed, or you're trying to frame me, and he says, "This is fake noose." Did you catch that?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
And then the threat is also Carponzi's like if you don't do what I want or whatever, if you don't go along with my like devious plan to like get rid of Birchum or whatever, you'll be back in hip hop traffic school. Cutaway to hip hop traffic school, which is, I guess, exactly what you might expect it to be.
Feels like a weird thing for Carponzi to like be shaming him about, right? But yeah,
that's actually perfect point, because this whole episode is all about trying to turn the tables on him. Like, we're not racist, you're the racist. Yeah. The racism of the bigotry of, what is it, soft expectations gets brought up at some point later.
They literally say that.
Well, let's race through this to the end here. God, we can skip that fucking joke about bacon bits.
Okay, but that was another, like, who the fuck wrote this? Where Birchum is just listing off the things that he's making the sandwich out of. Again, people do not, no one does that. And especially the part where he's like, half a bagel, whatever.
Well, it's
and then
supposed to be funny because he's putting together like a shitty sandwich, and he's in a bathrobe, and he's all dejected, and he just drank like 100 beers or whatever.
But no person would just say the things that they're putting on their sandwich out loud, and then also be like, lunch meat that's clearly past its date. Like, you wouldn't say that. You wouldn't fucking say that and then eat it. You wouldn't be like, rotten lunch meat, let me eat that. The idea of anyone doing something like that is that they're just not, they're checked out, they're depressed, whatever, they're not paying attention. But the idea that, like, he vocalizes that he knows that this lunch meat is rotten, but he's eating it.
Yeah. And then also vegan bacon bits or whatever. There's actually, this part is actually like his son walks in also wearing a bathrobe. And throughout this episode, the son has just been like doing VR. The whole time, every time we see him, he's just like pretending he's like he's doing
the VR marathon though. Like, that was why
he's doing the VR marathon, which led into the marathon aside. And then they're like at the dinner table, and this could almost be kind of funny, handled in the right way, which it's not. Where he's pretending to eat. He's like eating a virtual meal, like while he has real food.
Yeah. And Birchum says,
on the table.
Now he's wasting his time and my food.
and exactly with that delivery. Spot on.
Jesus Christ.
Just really emphasizing those those words there. But so anyway, the son comes in and he's like, they like have kind of a confrontation or whatever. And it's so weirdly this, like I mentioned many times, like the tone of the show just jumps around.
Yeah.
So like willy fucking nilly. So like suddenly Bertram is like cucked by his son. Because his son is like, he makes him like knock off the fucking VR helmet and it like breaks or something. He's like, oh man, I was just about to win $75,000 if I was in first place, but now I only won 15 grand. How much money did you make today or whatever? And it's like, and he has no comeback. And it's like almost this like meta commentary on how shitty the show is, where he's like, I can't think of a joke to write here.
Right.
And he's like about to try to say something. He's just like, I got nothing. But then he looks at the vegan bacon crumbles in his hand and goes, oh, wait, I got something. This is like the writer's room, like said out loud. He's like, oh, wait, I got something. I used to bring home the bacon. Pretty soon, I won't even be able to bring home the bacos.
What the
End
fuck?
scene.
And then this is the freestyle. The freestyle GIF starts playing. The kids.
Yeah.
Whoa, what the fuck? No, he didn't. He did not just say that. Yeah, it's fucking wild. Let's see. He doesn't get fired. They are gonna fire Carponzi because Gage explains that he was trying to blackmail him.
Yeah, they have the tribunal, and this is the first time I realized that, I guess in the first episode, or one of the earlier episodes, the Jedi guy was literally wearing a fucking Jedi robe.
Yeah, you talked about it on the podcast.
Did I?
Yeah,
I don't
you talked about it.
I didn't okay. Yeah. Well, I barely remember then, but like, they take his robe away from him, and he starts like freaking out about that, whatever. But like this, basically, just the whole thing just allows Adam Carolla to go off on a righteous rant. Right. How like, oh God, fucking Jesus Christ! He says someone needs to stop the progress of the progressives, letting fat kids be fat, minorities act like victims. This is not word for word, but it's basically, I'm not the bigot you are. The bigotry of soft expectations. He's like, you tried to destroy my interracial friendship by having him throw me under, not just under the bus, guys, by having him throw me under Rosa Parks' bus.
And everyone goes fucking ape.
Explodes in applause. Blah, blah, blah. There's a terrible fucking joke about dating sites, which I'm just not even going to say.
Nope.
Okay. So then when they revoke Carponzi's Jedi status, take away his robe, he says, I'm no longer a they. My new pronouns are, I'm dying. Shoot me in the head.
It's fucking brutal. Not even close to a joke. Not funny. Doesn't make sense even in the context. None of it.
Earlier in the episode, there's this whole, like, in my notes, I was like, what is the point of this? They, like, show, like, this, like, Rube Goldberg, like, series of events go into play where, like, the Blood on the Bandsaw 2 starts playing, and then, like, a bunch of other shit happens. And basically, it just leads to a big fire in the lacquer room. And so it's like, Bircham's all vindicated and happy and like with his family or something, and just like, it's all over, everything's fine
great
now, like nothing could go wrong. And then like the whole, like half the school explodes. Instead of, I guess they're like, well, how do we, like, they just don't know how to end the episode is basically what it is.
Well, this felt like ending the fucking series, as I talked about. It feels like it's like, because he implies like this giant fire, whatever, the burly man shows up, as you reference here. He says, I'm feeling the burn or whatever.
Oh God.
It's a way to get rid of evidence, and I'm feeling the burn, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, he implies like, yeah, I'm definitely going to get fired for this because I've just set the school on fire. And that's why I say it feels like a way to like say like, all right, the show's over. Like, we're not coming back from this.
And then also to stick it to Carponzi one step further, though, they have like 4 like saw blades come flying out of the explosion and land impossibly perfectly on Carponzi's like gay little scooter and just slice it in half.
Right.
You know, hilarious.
Even though it's already on fire.
Right. Like you said, Burly Man appears for no reason, I guess, other than he's like telling Birchum he's fucking awesome, basically.
Right.
And then he says, now that's how you get rid of evidence. What is he talking about?
No idea.
Yeah. I couldn't for the life of me figure out what he's referring to. And then, but like, he just says like 3 non sequiturs in a row, Burly Man. He goes, now that's how you get rid of evidence. You got me and the bear all fired up over here. Wait for it. ... No pun intended, as there's flames everywhere outside. And then, apropos of nothing, he yells, "Feel the burn," which I assume is some kind of fuck you reference to Bernie Sanders, but I don't see how it's a fuck you. They're just literally saying the fucking phrase. And then, like the little daughter who we haven't seen do anything the whole episode is just there with a lemonade stand for reasons. I mean, it doesn't add anything. It doesn't take anything away. It's just there. Just there. And then Birchum and Gage just like kind of say a couple like pseudo quip lines to each other and hug each other.
They imply they're implying Gage. It's implied or it's said that Gage has a plan to get Birchum his job back. It doesn't make any sense in the context because he says, "I've got a way to get Carponzi out for good and get you back." But we ended the other thing where Carponzi was
hold
gone.
The door open for season 2.
Right. But like at the end of the tribunal, Carponzi got fucking stripped. He's gone. So it's weird that he's saying like he's a way to get rid of him for good. Whatever.
Well,
anyways.
I don't think he's been fired. I think he's lost his
He's not
Jedi
a Jedi
status.
But that's all his job was.
No, you're right. He's not like he doesn't teach any subject.
His job was only being a Jedi.
I didn't even think about that. I was like, isn't he must be a teacher of some sort, but you're right. His full-time job is Jedi.
Right. So them stripping him being a Jedi means that he's not there anymore. So it doesn't make any fucking sense.
They can't handle the most basic fucking plot elements at all.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's the end of that.
That's how they end it.
Fucking ever.
And it feels like it's done. Like it can't come back. But like you said, like that last little bit was the only thing that felt like trying to leave something open. But even they fuck up and it's confusing.
It leaves it open to some sort of sequel potentially, and like, and even if they were like, we're done forever, like they could, if Daily Wire wanted them back, I'm sure they would come back and just make up some reason why, who cares? Like it's not like they give a shit about logical consistency or like the smoothness of plot lines or anything. So good God, all fucking mighty. That's Mr. Birchum, the latter half. I've got some recommendations here. Watched some cool shit recently. Please. I did get my hands on. I saw the TV Glow, the movie that I referenced wanting to see. I think last week. I liked it. It was a little bit of a letdown from the hype I had up in my head, but I kind of want to. I think it might deserve a rewatch. But one thing I really liked about it, honestly, was it just has extremely accurate 90s nostalgia on like a vibes level, but then just also on like an everything else level, especially in like the kind of the like establishing the setting, the time and place. It's like set in the suburbs in like the mid 90s, and it's just like extremely intense nostalgia, which I know like nostalgia gets kind of a bad rap by a lot of people, and for good reason. But the way I was thinking about it in my head while I was watching it, I was like, well, nostalgia is like a sometimes food, but then I was also thinking of it as like heroin. I was like, which kind of defeats what I'm saying. I'm like, it's just like being an occasional heroin user. Just allow yourself to dip into some extreme nostalgia every now and then. Just don't let yourself get hooked. Just snort it. Don't shoot it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, it really like taps into like kind of teen angst and like romantic yearning and like kind of melancholy shit. But it's all like through like the plot device that's very much like Lynchian dream logic, and it's sort of like it's all centered around like a fictional TV show that's very reminiscent of like, it's like almost feels like a combination of like Pete and Twin Peaks, this fictional show. that these two main characters like bond over. But anyway, it was good. I would still recommend it, even though it kind of at certain points I was like, do I like this right now? But like as it kind of like, I don't know, like it's good. That's all. I'll just leave it there. But then just last night, I discovered this really awesome TV show that I'm shocked I didn't know came out like a year ago. By Boots Riley, director of Sorry to Bother You. Great movie, and the show is very much in his like kind of surreal style and very much like critiquing capitalism, but like not even just like, oh, like corporatism, capitalism, greed, bad, but like it's very much explicitly arguing like in a positive way in favor of socialism. But if that sounds stuffy or whatever, it's not like the main, it's not like the center of the narrative. It's mostly actually really just hilarious. And I'm skipping over the major part of the show, which is that the protagonist was born like a giant baby who grows into a giant like 13, 14 foot tall man, young man. And it's all set in Oakland, which is where Boots Riley's from. I think he likes to settle his stuff in Oakland. He's very kind of Oakland, has a lot of Oakland pride. But yeah, it's really funny, and Walton Goggins is in it as like basically the foil, nice. the villain, and he plays like this like comic book artist who ends up like taking on the persona of one of his characters, who's like, you know, like a vigilante, and he like in real life does like this vigilante work, like dressed up as a fucking ridiculous superhero, and he's like this totally unhinged, the Law and Order reactionary psycho, and he's hilarious as well. It's just great all around, and then I'll throw in check out Flat Earth debate videos, and the kind of videos I've been watching a lot lately that ended up on my little like YouTube Shorts algorithm these days are scamming the scammer videos. I don't know if you're familiar with those. Where people they're so fucking hilarious. They get me every time. It's like it's a total formula, but like it just gets me every time when they start flipping out these clearly like Indian guys who are like, my name is Dan. I'm Jacob. And then also sovereign citizen style videos of people like fucking with cops are really funny to me. Funny, yeah. Like I get why like those guys definitely come off as annoying, but like usually they're in the right. Even if they are like kind of like looking for trouble, they're still in the right. And it's just funny to see like these fucking fascist cops like lose their shit, kind of in the same way the scammers lose their shit when you fuck with them. So yeah, that's what I've been up to the last like week or so.
Kind of talked about it a few weeks ago about like how like the whole like, oh, the what do they call it, spear phishing, the people that are talking to you are actually victims of the whole thing. But I can't help myself because the like the scammers thing is so fucking funny that I do it all the time. I got one the other day that was like a fake, clearly a fake email that was like, or not even email, a fake text that was like, oh, this is UPS and your room number is not correct, so we're having trouble delivering it. Please click this link to update whatever, blah, 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 right? And like, it was a group text message that had multiple other people in the text message. So I'm like, how do you think I'm going to fall for this? And I couldn't help but like do it. So I responded and I was just like, because I know that other regular people are in the same message. I'm just like, pause. Why are you as a man trying to handle another man's package? And like, you know, I can't help myself again from just doing stupid stuff like that. My general recommendation this week is a acquaintance. I'd like to consider him a friend. I would like to have considered him a friend. Scott Henson passed away last week. It was his after his like what became his last wrestling match. It was supposed to be last time that he wrestled someone who he's been friends with for like fucking 30 years at this point, who's a good friend of mine as well. He just didn't wake up the next day. Damn. The thing about Scott is that he was a wrestler, he was a furry, and he was also fucking hilarious. He was best friends with Adam from Your Movie Sucks. I think it's like a popular, like whatever podcast, this and that people know of. So he would be on his streams a lot. He was also on the Drunken Peasants streams a lot. Just really funny guy. He did his own podcast. It was called Worst Year of Our Lives. It started out as a wrestling podcast, and then it kind of turned into just like everything stupid that they could talk about, movies, blah, blah, blah. All of that is still online, so I would recommend people check that out if you just want to hear someone being funny. And like I said, there's a ton of it that's not about wrestling, a ton of it that's about movies. They do like, they like to do like what they call rebooking the Oscars. So they went through like every year of the Oscars from the beginning and like did like what should have won, what movies got snubbed, like all this. It's crazy because it's like sometimes it goes like 3-4 hour long podcasts going through like every movie of the year for decades at a time. It's really cool stuff. And like I said, Scott is just a great guy. And it's been tough because, you know, the way the internet is, it's like I've talked to this guy for, I don't know, 7-8 years at this point online, but like, I'm really good friends with someone, like I said, who was close friends with him for a long time. But how much do I really, you know, consider him a friend? I don't know. Like, you know, we talked forever, blah, blah, blah. It's like semi-parasocial, but semi-not when you're at that level with someone. But yeah, like, just check out stuff from Scott Henson. You can also, you know, check out they're you know, doing a GoFundMe, obviously, because someone passing away is sad. That can be linked in there too, but just check out his podcast, Worst Year of Our Lives. It's all on his YouTube. You can also like find the podcast on Spotify, blah, 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 everywhere. But that's what I recommend. Just go, you know, the other stuff you can do, but really like just check out, like, he's just just an incredibly hilarious dude. And again, there's tons of content that's not wrestling related for people to check out. He just happened to be a wrestler, just like he just happened to be a furry. Like that did not define him. What he really was just a funny dude.
I'll link to like the podcast and to like maybe I guess his like social media stuff, and then you said there's
I'll send you the link for his YouTube. That's like where you can get like kind of everything.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, you could find a ton of other stuff there. There's a ton of other stuff all around as well. But that was like kind of his main thing, and he had his website as well. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So check that stuff out for sure. And also check out our episode description, which will have those links we were just talking about, and all the other links to things like our Discord server, which you should join up with if you haven't already. Come aboard, say some stuff, chime in. We have a YouTube page that basically is just the episodes, but in video form. But it wouldn't hurt to like get people just subscribe to that just for the hell of it. And, you know, if you feel like listening to your podcasts on YouTube, you can do that with ours. I never really mentioned that explicitly on the show, so I figured I'd just mention it now. And with that, let's never forget first of all, let's never forget the fact that Tim has another podcast, which you can find at violentpeople.co called QNTR. It's about wrestling and hosted with friend Quentin. Did I get all that right?
Nailed it. Absolutely nailed it.
Okay. And let's never forget what Papa too. Papa Prophet Carolla told us that modern men are more likely to wear bracelets than eat stew. Amen. Good night, good luck, good morning, Vietnam. Bye.
Yeah, oh yeah, what condition my condition was in. I woke up this morning with the sun down, shining in. I found my mind in a brown paper bag, but then I tripped on a cloud and fell 8 miles high. I tore my mind on a jagged sky. I just dropped in to see what condition my condition was in. Yeah, oh yeah, what condition my my condition was in. I pushed my soul in a deep dark hole and then I followed it in. I watched myself crawling out as I was crawling in. I got up so tight I couldn't unwind. I saw so much, I broke my mind. I just dropped in to see what condition my condition was in. Someone painted April Fool in big black letters on a dead-end sign. I had my foot on the gas as I left the road and blew out my mind. 8 miles out of Memphis and I got no spare. 8 miles straight up downtown somewhere. I just dropped in to see what condition my condition was in. I said I just dropped in to see what condition my condition was in. Yeah, yeah, oh yeah.
The first voice recording was made in 1860. It was a 10-second fragment of the French folk song Au clair de la lune recorded by inventor Edward Léon Scott de Martinville. But who will make the final voice recording and when? What will it be? Who will hear it?